did. I'm all set.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Board of Selectmen of September 26, 2023. This is a hybrid meeting, which necessitates that the following notice be read into the record. This is to formally advise that as required by General Laws, Chapter 38, Sections 18 through 25, and pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16, 2021, as extended by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. The Yarmouth Board of Selectmen will hold a public meeting on Tuesday, September 26, 2023, at 5 o'clock, beginning with an executive session and opening to the public no sooner than 6 p.m. in the hearing room, Yarmouth Town Hall, 1146 Route 28, South Yarmouth, Mass. 02664. The public is welcome to attend either in person or via the alternative public access. And the public access information can be found on the town website. The meeting can be joined by computer or by telephone by following those instructions. As posted in the agenda, it's anticipated that we will go into an executive session pursuant to Chapter 38, Section 21A, to discuss potential litigation regarding zoning and building code violations at 343 Route 28, West Yarmouth, Massachusetts. The public body, which in this case is this board, can move to enter executive session if it's determined by the chair that meeting in open session could have a detrimental effect on the position of the public body, and the chair so declares that it would have a detrimental effect if the session were conducted in public. So, do I have a motion to go into executive section as recited?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, that would be a roll call vote. Mark?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Marcus?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. We're in executive session. Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Yarmouth Board of Selectmen of September 26th, 2023. This is the public portion of the meeting. We're just returning from executive session. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our first item is announcements, and I believe our town clerk has something for us.
Good evening, Mary Maslowski, Town Clerk. I just wanted to let everyone know that the Town Clerk's office has sent out postcards. So we are in the process of updating our voter list. Anybody that did not return a 2023 census form earlier this spring has received a postcard in the mail. If you received a postcard in the mail, please sign it and return it and let us know either what your new address is, that you still live at your existing house, or that you've moved, just so that we can update the voter list prior to the start of the presidential election cycle. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. The other announcement I would like to make is that we are having a flu shot clinic on Friday, November 3rd. And you have to register with the health department in advance. It's going to be at the Senior Center at 528 Forest Road in South Yarmouth from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And those 65 years of age or older are eligible for the high-dose vaccine. So if you have any questions, just call the health department, and as I said, you have to give your name prior. You can't just walk in. You have to be on the list to get the shots. Okay, who wants to speak at public comment? Let me see a show of hands for scheduling purposes. All right, what I'm going to do, because we have a bunch of people from the fire department waiting, and unfortunately they're standing. That's a 6:15 item. With the board's permission, I'm going to advance that item and do that first, so that they don't have to wait and they don't have to be standing up. We're going to have our fire chief, Enrique Arascu, introduce certain officers and other personnel within the department that have recently been hired and/or promoted, some in 2022, and some as recently as August of this year. So, Chief, do you want to take us through this?
Good evening. Thank you. I appreciate you accommodating us. I just wanted to have a moment to introduce a lot of our new firefighters and paramedics and fire alarm operators that we've hired in the last year or so, and they hadn't had an opportunity to come in and meet you. A few of them are part of the 4 additional hires that you approved this year, and we're trying to move forward with advancing our department and adding to our staff. So I just wanted to have an opportunity for you to meet them and for them to be recognized here and sworn in. I'll start with Daniel Field, a firefighter EMT. I think you're going to have them up front. Yeah, come up front.
Stand up front, and then I'll swear you all in together.
Yeah. we'll do it.
You're not all going to fit next to him. I would come up.
All the way out. And it's spread around.
Good job, good job. There you go. All right, Quantez Franklin is a firefighter EMT. Mary Sylvia is a fire alarm operator EMT. Stephen Bay, firefighter paramedic. Andrew McCormack, firefighter paramedic. Benjamin Worth, firefighter paramedic. Jordan Elisier, firefighter EMT.
Here, so I can see.
Robert Crosby Jr., firefighter EMT. Anthony Iacetta, firefighter EMT. And last but not least, Josiah Dulac, firefighter paramedic.
Good evening. I'm going to ask you each to raise your right hand, and at 2 points, I'm going to ask you to state your name, and then I'm going to ask you to state your position. Otherwise, you'll all be swearing in together, okay? I, please state your name. Do solemnly swear and affirm. That I will faithfully and impartially. Discharge and perform. All the duties incumbent upon me. As a, please state your position. For the town of Yarmouth. According to the charter, bylaws, rules, and regulations. Of the town of Yarmouth. The Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And the Constitution and laws of the United States of America. So help me God. Congratulations. certificates for each of you to sign. Find your name on the table. Please sign your name to those, and we will pass around the second.
Might as well get over there. Yeah.
Q, Jordan, Field, Mary, Steve.
There you go.
I need my glasses.
That's what you see all the time. Yeah. Might as well get at least one free deal.
Don't sit down yet. These guys want to congratulate you, so everyone remains standing.
There is a second one that is coming as soon as Selectmen have finished signing.
We wanted to sign
Around the article from there.
You as well.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be the 10th case.
Yeah, that's what Mark was saying, the building commissioners.
Make the rounds.
Yeah.
Gee, I'm sorry.
So I'm in the way of you.
Prepare better for you then.
That's okay. I'll just give you a little head start.
Just elbow me on the way up, fine.
Funny too. When I write, my whole body has to be in the right. It comes from the nuns that taught me how to write. They were always mad that I was left-handed.
Congratulations to you. Good luck.
I think it's great. She's got little fire engines on her dress.
The state auditor, Bump, 2015, did an audit of the. Yeah, can you believe it? I'm surprised that's not.
Okay, Bob,
Maybe someone like me needs to tell her.
these are all yours.
You can go.
I do?
Let's see.
Can't be too close.
Why don't you pull in so I can scoot?
Oh, sure, sure. Yep.
I have to sign all these now. First, I wanted to shake hands with all my.
My poor dog has been on his own since 12:30 this afternoon. Watching the clock.
That's not good.
Well, it's like, I just hope we don't go too late tonight.
Yeah.
We should have a cutoff.
Go home and
should.
feed the dog. Let him out. Someone's not happy.
Which one's next, Mary? This one?
Need to have them sign them, but-
There we go. You need to sign, just use our table.
Just turn around and use,
There you go.
if you need a pen, I've got one here.
Bring him out.
Go ahead.
There you go.
It's your chance. What we selectmen do behind the scenes here.
If you work for the government, it's always paperwork, right?
think I got everybody, right?
You did.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not so pretty ones back.
As long as I get it back, thank you. Anyone need a pen?
We want to say a few words down the line, or? Don't want to, you're good? Who's next?
A little girl's dress that has embroidered fire trucks on the smock button. It's so cute. You're off the hook. Thank you very much.
Give 'em a couple minutes to do
Chris Caton is one of our bus drivers. Chris Caton is back, Fire Lieutenant. The bus driver with me. Came on the same day.
Well, this will give you two idea of how many of the other people are here. A lot of these people were here for the fire guys. Numbers, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it covers, all department heads have that. It is a range depending on how could you do it. It can be less, so it's a merit-based thing.
But the odds are reasonably high that they'll get the 3 per term.
See, there's a similarity.
I know, I think
Looks a
that's
little bit
great.
like them.
Now, let's see, Naomi. Do we have Naomi?
Okay.
Looking
My
for
sister
this
says when she
person
comes
that
up
has
to
the
Boston,
hearing.
everybody looks
It's
the
been
same.
so hard to get a hold of.
So she may not be here.
May not show up.
This is good.
But they did get a hold of her. They told her, you gotta be here.
Wait for the chief to clear up. Okay, we're ready to move on. Thank you, Chief, for bringing these fine men and women before us to celebrate their promotions and their hires. Thank you very much. You guys do a great job. We're big supporters of the Yarmouth Fire Department, so thank you so much. Public comment. Anybody? Rita Morris, and then you, ma'am.
Vita Morris. I guess I wasn't paying that much attention when the DOT gave their presentation on Route 28 project. They're starting at the town line with Hyannis and going up pretty much to, is it Town Bridge Road, up the road a little bit past the motels. Until it came to my mind that they had mentioned something about a bicycle path. And when I called Jeff to find out exactly what the situation was, he told me that it would be along the southern side of the road in front of those motels that thankfully with the arrival of the Hampton Inn, kind of the landscape their areas very beautifully, and it's really quite presentable, that whole area. And Mr. Colby then proceeds to tell me that, I commented this to him, and he said, well, actually, they're making it a little wider than we thought it was going to be, and it would even require taking some the parking space to put in this bike path. I can't believe that we would do something like that and allow, and he tells me that this board is the only one that can make an appeal or whatever. I don't know the whole procedure, with the DOT and who, has the right, to make the decisions and who has any right at all to try and get some alleviation or whatever. But I think if somebody needs to get a hold of them, I can't imagine that the people of Yarmouth would want that to happen. When they would totally, take over the landscaping and even some more of the parking space. So if there's anything that can be done and this board can do, please do that. As I said, I'm not familiar with the procedures, but Jeff, I guess, can tell you who needs to do what, and make sure that, because sometimes when the DOT, I always, do you remember what happened with the Route 6 there with the shrubs and the trees in the center of the road? Some woman said, they have to be cut out, and before anybody could get organized, even she made it to about exit 4 before somebody put a stop to it. But people, I guess they don't listen very carefully. So please do something about that. Now, in view of the situation that we have here with the immigrants, I would like to suggest to the board that any projects that any boards or committees have in mind which would cost any kind of money at all whatsoever, that they put these things on hold for a while until we get some clarification as to what exactly, what will be happening and what kind of monetary, requirements will be made of the town and what have you, so that anything, and I very specifically have in mind the bond, the $3 million bond that was going to be issued for the drive-in boardwalk, I guess it was, or something like that. The whole thing sounded like we were going to turn ourselves into pretzels to do that to begin with. So something like that, if that can be put off, I think it would be a good idea. And then the other project that I can think of right away is the town seal, which the group doesn't want to even talk about when you bring up costs, In fact, they will try to say, well, it's not going to be all done at the same time. So if we do it in segments or what have you, they try to make it sound as though nobody's going to feel the pain. It's almost like not having to pay anything. So those are two examples that I have in mind. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Kelly O'Rourke. I'm a resident of Dennis, and I'm here specifically to hear your update on this illegal immigrant situation that's going on. I am a concerned taxpayer, and I hope you have some answers for us tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Kent Dumont is my name. We do live here in Yarmouth. May I ask a question? I can think I'm...
Normally, this is not a Q&A, but let me hear your question. It might be something that...
It has to do with the presentation that we had before. I was really excited to see the chief and to see how they're progressing forward and all the new people in there. And the question is, if I may address it to the chief, the question is, how is our fire department staffed? Are we in need of more of these young people that we saw here today? If not, are they looking for them? Now, what impact will the immigrants have on his department? I don't know who's going to answer that question.
I know that the chief is going to be coming before us in the not-too-distant future with tales of woe
Okay.
on his staffing. No, I'm kidding. He's going to be reporting on what his needs are. He's a new fire chief. He's, after an extensive search, he was hired. He's been on the job, I would say, approximately 6 months or so. And during that time, he's getting acclimated and assessing the needs of his department. And we've been playing catch-up with the personnel in the fire department for quite some time. So that's all I can tell you.
I'll
but-
touch upon his question during my update at 6:45. So we'll address the impacts on the fire department.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. You can use this microphone or that one, whichever you prefer. Everybody likes that one.
How you doing? Ray Peloso, 27 Nautical Lane, South Yarmouth. I'm not a public speaker, so this is hard for me. I'm just concerned.
Now.
Thanks. I am concerned about what's going on with the illegal immigrants coming to our town. Now, from what I understand, they're going to the schools. They have buses that pick them up, and they go there just like our kids in the town. Also, I understand that the DY school is also furbishing meals for them and delivering to them. So our tax dollars are actually paying to have the school as Grubhub. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's got to be stopped. It's getting out of control. It's just too many things going on in this town that shouldn't be going on. I mean, you see the people that come here. Now, you have your selectmen meetings, and usually there's just a handful of people here, but you see the people are coming out. They want answers, and they want it done. You send letters to Governor Healy, and she's just ignoring you. She hasn't responded to yours because she knows what she's doing, and she doesn't care. She doesn't care about the people of Yarmouth. She doesn't care about the people of Cape Cod, and she doesn't care about the people of Massachusetts. She has an agenda to do, and she's going on ahead and doing it. That's all I have to say.
I thought you weren't a public speaker.
Maybe I'll come up there and be on the front desk. Thank you for listening.
We are going to have an update, and probably not all, but many of your questions will be addressed.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Is anyone here on the Beyond the Bounds licensing issue? What was that notice for 6:30? Yeah, it's past that now.
6:30, we're looking for, is there a Naomi?
I'll tell you what, if there's nobody here for that, is there?
There's a hand up there. There she is. There's Naomi.
Is that Naomi?
Yes.
Yes, I'm Naomi Steckman from Beyond the Bounds.
Okay, so Naomi, this matter's been continued a couple times until tonight, and we don't meet for another 2 weeks, so this is your last shot at it.
Yep.
My understanding is that you have withdrawn the alcohol portion of your request, correct?
That is correct.
And you're just looking for an entertainment license?
Correct.
What were those dates again that you wanted?
It was Columbus Day weekend, so it's October 7th is the main event, and October 8th is the rain date.
October 7th, was that a Saturday?
Yes, that's correct.
And then you wanted the 8th as a rain date, correct?
Correct.
But as I understand it, there's kind of a conflict on the rain date with the Seaside Festival because they're going to
Right.
be doing their fireworks at the same location
yes.
where you want to do this activity, right?
Right, and our event is actually before the fireworks. I did speak to Jan, but I know that that was something she was worried about. Our event is at 5 p.m. And it's only 50 minutes. And I think it would be wonderful. I mean, we're looking for, the whole purpose of Beyond the Bounds is to be in these public spaces where already audience members are there. So we do have a draw, but it's also in addition to being present with whoever's there. So while they're waiting for the fireworks, that could be an option. But I know Jan was concerned about that piece. So if it's something that would make it easier. We can just focus on the one day. If it rains, and we have to cancel it.
Well, is there another rain date you could have that wouldn't be on that particular weekend? Could you have a rain date that carries into the next weekend, or no?
We could. It's always tricky with October because of the weather. As we get further in October, it gets colder. But I mean, I'm fine with doing that if that's a better option.
Okay. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your activity consists of?
Sure. So Beyond the Bounds usually is on the National Seashore. We go throughout the entire season. We do performances in the outdoor spaces, and a lot of times also combined with oceanic preservation. So we've collaborated with Surfrider Foundation and done beach cleanups. We've also collaborated with Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. And we have performances that anywhere between hip hop to the Wampanoag tribe to Irish. And this particular event is our final event of the season. It is an Irish group, so it has 2 fiddlers, a guitar player, and an Irish dancer, which is why she was using the boardwalk as the percussiveness. And the idea is that we present these performances in the outdoor spaces. They're free to the public. They're completely accessible. And we usually combine it with some sort of other art. So it's dance, music, and sometimes visual art. And I think I provided information on the organization. We've been a 501c3 for the past 3 years. This is our third season. This is the final event of the season.
I should have asked you this earlier, but did you get I know there was a problem with abutters notices. That's why we had it continued twice. Did you finally remedy that and get the abutters notices out?
Yes, I did. And I apologize about again, this is our third season.
That's not a problem.
Yeah.
No apologies
Okay.
necessary. I mean, this is your activity, and you probably are going through it for the first time or whatever, and not familiar.
Yes, with this
the
particular town, and everybody's different. So yes. But yes, I did all the abutters.
It didn't cause any inconvenience for the board. It really didn't. Is the notice
thank
by
you.
affidavit, Bob, the return on this?
I believe I sent an updated affidavit.
Yeah, I think that's in the
We
file.
get that?
Yeah,
We have that?
I think it's in the file.
It is?
Yeah, and I have that upstairs if you.
So you turn the updated affidavit into the licensing department?
Yes, I did. I scanned it in.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, personally, I'm going to go to the board. Actually, this is a public hearing, so we have to go to the public and then to the board. Does anybody out there have any interest in commenting for or against this proposal? I didn't think so. But we have to ask. All right. Let's go to the board. Dan?
I don't have any problems at all with the request, and I'm not troubled by the potential conflict on the 8th, because I think actually it's a nice addition to Seaside Offerings. It doesn't seem like it's going to conflict, and it actually is just one more activity for townspeople to go to. So I don't see it as a problem, but I'm willing to certainly listen to other members.
Hey, Mark, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Peter?
Again, on the rain date, I don't see a real issue, is because it doesn't sound like they're going to be taking up a lot of the space, and as Dan indicated, that it's another event for the folks of the town to go and see. So outside of that, I have no questions.
Thank you. Dorcas?
I have no questions.
All right, so do I have a motion to close the public portion of the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, since we have one member that's remote, we'll do a roll call vote. Peter?
Aye.
Dorcas?
Aye.
Dan? Mark?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Public portion of the hearing is closed. Somebody want to make a motion on the underlying application?
Motion to approve the entertainment license as presented.
Okay, with the rain date?
The rain date, the original date, October 7th, the rain date, October 8th.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion or comments by the board before we vote? Seeing none. Peter?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Dorcas?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. So that's unanimously approved, Naomi, for the 7th with a rain date of the 8th.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and your support.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
So glad that's taken care of. It seems like weeks on that.
So now we come to our 6:45 item, 5 minutes early. A migrant issue update. So my understanding is, Bob, you've been talking to various people from the school department, the health department, and you're gonna give us the benefit of what you've learned, and then we're gonna go to our health director, correct?
Yes, correct. In fact, I'd like to invite Mr. Jay Gardner, our Director of Public Health, to join me up here. He will be participating in this evening's update.
Okay. Jay, you wanna come up to the front?
That would be great. Thank you, Jay, and welcome. I do want to highlight the work that he's performed over the past few weeks on this subject. It's been exemplary. First of all, I just want to say, Mr. Chairman, that since this project has started, one of the things in terms of impact that we've spent a very significant amount of time on is searching for more information on this particular program. It's well documented that the state's implementation of it did not include municipal officials. A lot of the information that we received was either very late, immediately after the fact, those types of situations. And throughout the process, it has been not always easy to gain additional information, but we spent, and I know on my part, constant effort reaching out through the legislative delegation, the governor's office. We spent daily trying to get more information, and in addition to that, meeting with our various town departments on a very regular basis. We've been able to monitor the situation and share information. And I do want to also point out, first of all, these comments are in writing, and we will be able to post these to the town's website. So if people miss anything, that we'll have that information up there. And I do want to say, I also want to call out Laurie Sullivan, the town's communication director, has been a great resource throughout this process. We've committed to making regular updates to the town's website of every shred of information that we can gather with respect to the details of this project, and we've been making those updates 3 times a week to the town's website, and we do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We've had numerous press releases and other releases of whatever information that we have, and I want to say that those efforts will very strongly continue. So in terms of the information that we have, the Harborside Suites is just about at its max occupancy with the migrant housing program, which has progressed incrementally over the past 2 weeks, and we think that facility is filled up now. We currently have 78 residents at that facility, which is comprised of 22 families, and that includes 25 school-age students, and these 25, we have 16 enrolled at the Ezra Baker School. There's 5 students in the intermediate/middle school, and 4 students located at the high school. Now, the primary cost of the services that have been provided to these residents rests with the school department, who reports that they've successfully integrated these children into their existing programs. Now, the school department is eligible to receive $104 per student per day as a reimbursement from the state. These funds come out quarterly, so the town hasn't received any of these funds yet, but it is programmed to receive those. Now, that number is calculated based on the average per pupil expenditure in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts of $18,720 per student per year. And it's an exact calculation. The 104 times 180 school days equals the 18,720. Now, it's worth pointing out that the annual per pupil expenditure on Cape Cod, it is slightly higher than the state average. And the Dennis-Yarmouth Regional School District has a per pupil expenditure of $21,557, which is just over that reimbursement amount. So the reimbursement falls a little short of what our actual per pupil costs are, but in discussing it with the school's business administrator, that 18,720 would go a long way towards meeting the needs that they've had in integrating those children. These funds, in all likelihood, may be used to add an additional English language learning position, but that will be dictated by the needs of the school department when the funding. One position. And that they feel that would be what they need in the school to integrate this number of new students. Now, we have no other direct service delivery costs that we're presently regularly making, although I do want to point out, and the gentleman had asked the question with respect to our fire department, the services provided there. We've received 4 medical calls since the program's inception, which is a little over 2 weeks ago. That is not a huge cost, but it bears very close watching. If we find that the number of medical calls to that facility is beyond what the town can absorb, that would cause additional problems in terms of our availability and budgeting. It's a very busy department, but that issue is being managed right now. The town's role with respect to the services has primarily been in the area of monitoring and coordinating services. This is ongoing, and it's being managed through our health department and our Director of Public Health, Jay Gardner, who in just a moment, I'm going to turn it over and he's going to provide some detailed assessment. He's been on site working with the professionals on site, and he has more detailed information than I do. And he's going to talk about other activities such as the medical services and some of the other services that are being provided to those residents. Now, what else I would say is that for the present time, the facility appears to be stable in terms of the services and in terms of the impacts on our community. The one remaining fear that we have, and this has been the source of a tremendous amount of communication coming out of my office, and I know the concerns of the Board of Selectmen, are that if this program is expanded in our community, in other words, more than one facility, additional facilities, more impacts on the Route 28 corridor, the impacts will be much larger than we're experiencing and could be problematic. And there's a wide range of issues and concerns associated with the use of these motel facilities for this use. So to that end, I think it bears mentioning that the town has been taking the strongest steps that are possible under law to protect the interests of the local bylaws and the requirements of this community, as well as having direct communication with the governor's office to see if it's possible to limit further growth of this program in our community. And I would underscore that one more time, that the town is taking, under the law that we're allowed to now, the strongest action that is possible to contain this program. And these steps have included direct communication and the correspondence with the governor's office, as well as legal steps to uphold all of the town's zoning bylaws, which do impact the use of these facilities for any stays in excess of 30 days, which we feel do not comport with the town's zoning bylaws. So with that, I want to turn it over to our Director of Public Health, Jay Gardner, who has a great perspective, and he's worked hard on this issue as well, just to give a little more detail to the board.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Chairman, board members, thank you for the opportunity to provide some context of what's gone on over the past 15 days at the Harbor Suites. I do want to start with echoing what the chairman and all of you, the board, and what Bob just outlined. Lines of communication and getting reliable information has been challenging at best. You've all struggled with it, certainly at the health department. Our motto, if we can predict it, we can prevent it, or at least react to it. It's been very difficult to get information so that we can properly respond and protect, right? Our mission is to safeguard the community, surveillance, and hopefully act proactively. In this case, we haven't really. We've been reactive, and that really isn't the best way for public health. But it's working now, and I'd like to step you through a little bit of this, because channels have been made. We have, through Bob's efforts, certainly daily, quite frankly, communications are happening. We now have, although it's not perfect data, and it's certainly not timely, but we have information now with the regional director of housing and livable communities. The regional director has now provides us information. I received an email again today, as best they can. Public health, local public health is giving us information, again, as best they can, and when it shows up on their dashboard, they send us information. There was a day when this started, within an hour, Bob had information, and I had two contradictory information. So the struggles that, I hope the community understands that, the struggles that this board and the town administrator has as far as unreliable, imperfect data, those are real, but we're doing the best we can with that and responding. So to walk you through this, again, Bob said 22 families, 78 individuals, but on that Sunday night when it started, I think it was the 10th, Monday we gathered all to try to coordinate and what this was going to look like, and by Tuesday, the building commissioner and myself visited the site. At that time, it was not those numbers, it was first phase, early on. I don't recall exactly what the numbers were, but it is incrementally upwardly adjusted. We were met by 2 RNs. The medical response team was actually on site, and that was talked about 2 weeks ago, that the concern was communicable disease. What are the concerns? Things of that nature. I hope this message is reassuring to some degree to the community and the public at large, for the individuals living there, and the surveillance that safeguards for the community at large and the schools. 2 RNs have been there to do medical assessments, not invasive procedures, but medical assessments, cataloging the health of all of the individuals, from the small children all the way through to the adults. That went on. Additionally, on that Tuesday when the building commissioner and I were there, 4 staff from DY school were there. They were doing the processing and the enrolling of school-aged children. That went on for several days, and I think that probably would have continued beyond that. Additionally, we looked at the site itself. The building commissioner was looking at the pool area. That has been drained and it's under renovations, making sure that is safe. We have young children and individuals not familiar with that site, making sure that that was closed off and there weren't going to be any sets. A construction site, making sure that was properly sealed. I additionally had a concern as far as the dumpster area, and I know that has been a concern. Now we have additional individuals, and the census there has gone up. They have upwardly adjusted the dumping for their trash disposal, making sure there's no harborage for vermin and rat infestations, things of that nature. That is actually quite common on the Cape, so they had to be aware of that. The medical assessments continued all the way through, and I checked, and I keep checking daily with what, as you're probably aware, the MAVEN system, right? That's our communicable disease tracking, right? The Massachusetts Virtual Epidemiological Network. That's going to tell us across all of the communities here, right? That's an integrated system of the 80 communicable diseases. There are none at this site right now. There is nothing that has, now we do have communicable diseases, don't get me wrong, in Yarmouth, but then all of the communities have them. There is nothing coming from that site that has been reported. This is reported through primary care physicians, urgent care emergency rooms and hospitals, reportable diseases, right? a vast majority are influenza in Yarmouth, but there are others, and we have, we do track, and it was at the last meeting, they talked about TB. There have been TB cases in here, and we do direct observation therapy through a vendor. All that surveillance is in place, and that has been a proven surveillance and safeguard for the community, and it's happened well before the migrants coming here to Yarmouth. And I guess I would also say there are 80 communities involved in this program. 1/4 of the communities in Massachusetts are involved in the migrant relocation program. I have to, and I'm going to continue on as far as this site is being handled very well, and it's a compliment to the nonprofits and the faith-based organizations in this community, because they have taken a tremendous load off of this municipality. All of the social service, the wraparound services that we're not providing those. I'm on daily, or actually probably every other day, with the 15 communities across the Cape and beyond. Many communities are doing social work. They're actually functioning as social workers. We haven't had to do that. I've gone back. I go back probably every 2 to 3 days, and I've watched the numbers go up. We're making sure that, but I think we're at maximum, as Bob said now. But it is operating well. Medical services are being provided. Meals are being delivered and distributed. I was met last Friday, by 2 guardsmen in uniform immediately as I pulled up. Making sure, and I just asked them, what's the coordination? What's the logistics? How are things going? They gave a report that, in fact, things are going along nicely. They do have to call for transportation. Appears to be one of the difficult concerns. As we know, transportation on the Cape is difficult. They're teaching them how to use the bus system. That is being done, but the guardsmen are there during the day. At night, there is a manager on site. They've all been made aware of that, and they're accessing that. If they have to, they're accessing that information. School started a week ago today on the 18th, and I would refer to the school department and what Bob had said as far as the school buses and the picking up and things of that nature, but that students are enrolled from that site, and that seems to be going smooth, very, very smooth as well. Bob mentioned the press releases, but more than anything, there is surveillance going on, and there's medical for the individuals that are there, the safeguards for public health, for the individuals and the families that are living there, and the at-large community for Yarmouth, to making sure that individuals, their health, their safety, and their future, as far as moving hopefully up and beyond this. I handled housing in some big urban communities, and this is really warehousing individuals. It's really not giving them much of an opportunity to thrive. I hope this is just phase 1, but they're on a track to then be able to move up and out, and that's where that is. But we're monitoring this. I hope the community understands. Communicable disease tracking is in place, and there has not been a concern in any way as far as communicable disease. Does that help?
Okay, I'm going to go to the board first for some questions. Dorcas had a question.
I do. Sticking with the meals, do we know who is providing those meals to the population?
So that is contracted by the state from an approved commissary. I don't have the name of the restaurant, but I have seen them being delivered. They're labeled lunches and dinners. 2 bags are dropped off, and they're immediately then picked up and distributed into each of the rooms, placed into a refrigerator. And I can get you the name of the restaurant, but it's coming from an approved commissary, meaning approved commissary, a licensed restaurant.
Well, and because there was some comments being made of the school department delivering meals, but these are coming from...
Not to my knowledge, no.
Right, okay. And have we checked to be sure that there aren't any illegal cooktops or anything of that nature, kitchen-related in these homes?
I have not personally gone in and out of each of the rooms, but through the building commissioner, that is not allowed. The owner, we had the owner when this was early on, first week, letting them know, they're not in the suites. As you face that building, as you face that facility, to the left of where the suites are, and there are kitchenettes in there. That's where the nurses are. That's where the guardsmen kind of station. That's where they operate out of. The migrant families are not in that section. This is in the main complex. That's where they're housed. There are no cooking facilities there.
Okay, so they're having their lunch and dinner delivered, breakfast is on their own?
So the hotel owner is providing some light, some fruit, some things. It's just a kind of a grab and go, if you will.
Okay.
It's not being delivered anyway. It's being put out for them, and that's being put on and provided by the hotel owner.
Okay, when you say no communicable diseases, in the case of all the school-age children, they've been properly vaccinated with the requirements for the school department?
No, that's not true. There is a process to that. Now, by federal law, McKinney-Vento, as you know, a homeless individual can start school immediately. This happens. This is not unique to this cohort. They can start immediately, and then there's a process to that. And some have been fully vaccinated, but the medical response team is cataloging that. Some individuals came from just outside of Boston. Their medical records were there. They just need to get them down here. In the school department, the nursing supervisor has been visited the site multiple times, and they're working through that. But it does take a process. But they do go into school immediately. The difference is that there was an assessment. So when you're doing an assessment, they're making sure the symptoms, whether TB, it might be fever, night sweats, cough, things of that nature. Well, there would be a contraindication that further medical treatment is required. It might be a chest X-ray. It could be a skin implant for TB, if those are the things, pertussis and others. That was evaluated. You put them into school, and this happens. This isn't unique to this group, and then the immunizations begin.
Okay.
That happens.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Dan?
Nothing right now.
Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dorcas actually asked a lot of my questions. I have a question for the administrator, and that is, has the school department at all indicated that there are any financial issues or burdens that they'll need extra help on? Or have we gotten any sense of that?
I discussed that issue with the school business administrator this morning, and he indicated that if the reimbursement funds follow through, that should be adequate to address the needs of this population.
Okay. And that, we're talking about, that's all-inclusive in terms of all of the types of services that they might need to provide?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any indication from either one of you that, I've raised this point before, that real concerns about just the way the overall program is being managed, that in many cases, rather than dispersing migrant populations throughout a community, it's far better. We've seen, other administrations deal with surges in refugees and migrants by concentrating them in various locations. Here on the Cape, the military base has been used to basically, with a capacity of up to 2,500. We've made that suggestion. I certainly have. I know others have as well. But that just doesn't seem to be sinking in of a more comprehensive and perhaps a less disruptive way to manage this. Is there any sense that any of this is clicking in, or is it basically more of the same?
I believe it's actually more of the same. It really contradicts the whole philosophy of housing first model and trying to combat homelessness and things of that nature. This is contradictory, but they're dealing with what they can. It's been difficult at best, but I use the term warehousing individuals. This is not the best model by any means, but they're basically keeping people alive.
No, I understand. Is there any evidence at all that, we've heard that the homelessness problem is a serious one, and it's not just in terms of migrants, but there are also local residents that are homeless. Is there any evidence that there's an effort underway to house people that have either been displaced, like from Yarmouth Resorts or any other non-migrant populations? Has there been any communication that there are plans underway to maybe find space for Yarmouth residents or local folks?
Through the chair, that's a great question, and that's one of the concerns being that those are vulnerable populations, not just the migrant families, but across homeless individuals, whether they're chronic or just recently dipped into for a number of different reasons, medical reasons, foreclosures, job loss. That's a vulnerable population, and they also need to be attended to. In no way, if there are, to answer your question, if there are plans underway, I haven't heard them, and I don't think Bob has heard them as well.
Okay, because that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons we've been told is an emergency, is because the problem goes beyond just the migrants, that we have a serious problem here locally, and I'm just trying to ascertain to what degree is there any real attention being spent on local folks or Cape Codders.
It hasn't been shared with us, I can tell you that.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions, Mr. Chairman, right now. Did you want to add something?
I did. It was forwarded, and Bob put this up on the website, just to pick up on the vaccination and the medical assessments. The state, and I was neglectful in not putting that in my presentation, the state has hired the vendors to come in and do vaccinations at each of the site, and we shared that. Bob has put that up on the site. And for the community to understand, please check the website. Updates are going on, and press releases, as he mentioned in his presentation, are going up every couple days. Once we confirm it through the state, and we get information, or actually medical information, census, things of that nature, it goes immediately. It's the best way to channel information. Otherwise, scattered and imperfect data, it creates sometimes fear and misinformation. That's not the best way. Bob has put a system in place for the website, and it's going up, and it's talked about each morning, that we say, what's the next update? What do we have? What do we have for information so the community can understand?
Peter?
Yeah, a couple of questions. I've heard these folks described as illegal aliens, people that have crossed the border illegally. Are they asylum seekers, or are they in fact people that have crossed the border illegally?
Yeah.
I can address that item from the information that the state has provided to the community. And what their material says is, to be eligible for the shelter under this program, at least one household member must be a citizen, a green card holder, or be present in the U.S. with the knowledge and consent of the Department of Homeland Security, meaning individuals have made lawful entry into the United States. Only families with lawful entry are eligible for the emergency assistance program.
Hold on a minute.
And that is
If
information
we're going to
from the
hear all this
Commonwealth.
background noise, people aren't going to be able to hear. Plus, this gets recorded, so it's going to interfere with people that want to see this at a later date. What is the source of that information, Bob, that you just read?
And this is a briefing from the Department of Housing and Livable Communities.
So this is from the state?
It's from the state, yes.
Okay. Peter, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I've also heard that the folks have been given large amounts of money to spend at various stores. If this is true, how much have they been given, and what is the source?
Do either of you know whether they're giving cash, and if so, how much?
I'm not aware of distribution of financial.
No, no cash. We have been informed that they are participating in the WIC card program.
Right.
But
Okay. Anything else, Peter?
Yeah, no other questions. No other questions. Thank you.
Could I do a quick follow-up on?
Go ahead, Dan.
Jay, if I could, I just want to follow up on one of Mark's questions. He talked about the homeless and the veterans. With the Yarmouth Resort, there was some suggestion in the media that people had been displaced in furtherance of this program going into the Yarmouth Resort. We know that the program didn't go in there, but do we have any evidence that people have actually been displaced in either setting?
Well, the Yarmouth Resort, that program stopped.
Right.
Largely an effort
It's on
the
hold.
administration.
It's on hold.
Well, it isn't, it is not a site right now.
I'd like to say it stopped, but that's really
It's-
not accurate.
For now. For now, it is on hold.
Okay.
I don't know what the census was, or if they had to empty out that would be speculation. I'd have to find that out.
You're
I
not
don't know.
aware of it?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman, can I just respond to that? I spoke to the reporter that did the story right after the stories came out, and the reporter insists that they're pretty confident in that information of 35, at least 35 people being displaced. So I find that to be a reasonable information. Would I go to court on it? I don't know. But she seemed pretty confident that there was a sizable number of people that were displaced. I think
I can find, Mr. Chair, through the chair, I can find that information. Each time I go, most of the time they come over, the manager will come over, and with the cell phone, put me on the phone with the owner of the facility. That's a question I can just ask. We're individual. I haven't asked that. I haven't asked that question.
I would be surprised if
That article was back in August, wasn't it, Mark?
that article was in August, in early August. There were two articles.
Cape Cod Times in
There were
August.
two articles in the front page, Cape Cod Times, and one of the people that were displaced, was literally a photograph with a copy of a notice indicating that the rent was going up to an exorbitant amount. I think it would be helpful to try. I don't think it's going to be easy, given the source that you identified. You try to get that information, but I think it's certainly worth pursuing from whatever sources you can. I think this has been an issue that we raised from the very beginning when the very first call from the administrator to the governor's office. I think they made it very, very clear that, we're dealing with an establishment that was very quick to put people out on the street in order to cash in or make room, for this for a larger number of folks coming in. And obviously, when that was expressed, I think that was one of the red flag issues that, put a time out on it. I do think it's fair to speculate that if there are other similar facilities being pursued, who's to say that that activity might not be happening in other places? That's the reason why the state needs to have tighter controls in terms of how this program runs. We just know of one facility where there's been displacement. What other, where might there be other problems?
Right.
So I think the concern is a legitimate one.
Right. No.
So, you're housing X amount, but then again, displacing X amount. I mean, what are we really accomplishing?
Right. Yeah. You kind
So
of
to the extent that, I guess I want to just wrap this up. If you can provide additional information, I think that would be, helpful.
I'll pursue that as well,
I
but
can get you that article for background, the article Mark's referring to, and
I have them right here. I can forward them to you
You have them?
momentarily.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
okay. I would respond somewhat to a degree in that we talk about there might be other sites. Bob pulls together meetings fairly regularly for the department heads, making sure, are we on this? Do we have this well coordinated? Is it being monitored properly? And in one of those meetings, we were told there was a thought that possibly there was another hotel. This was now going back a week and a half ago. And the building commissioner and I went down and we talked and we asked. And they said, no, we're not part of the program. To our knowledge, right now, there is only one facility that is participating in this program. But we have heard rumors that the others may be.
Yeah, can I just clarify my point? That's precisely the issue. This is one of the weaknesses in the state's program, is there are not adequate controls to prevent this type of activity. The controls, we've seen the RFR.
Yep.
They've laid it out. They're supposed to comply with local building and zoning and Board of Health requirements. That's an issue. And, we've been looking for some assurances that local residents are not going to get displaced. That still has been an issue. I don't think that's been resolved. I don't think that's an issue that's just for Yarmouth. I think that's an issue for every community, given how these facilities are utilized.
I think we can concede the obvious, that this has not been a well-run program. That this has not been implemented well at all. And we're dealing with the best we can.
Do you not have
We'll get to that in a minute, okay? I got a couple questions. You done, Mark?
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
I get that, what you said about a child entering school, they can enter right away without getting certain immunizations.
That's federal law for a homeless individual. Okay,
I
you know
get that. But after they enter school, what, if any, are the requirements for vaccinations?
Well, then there are,
There are none?
pardon me, for, I'd say,
For a
just
student
understand the
that-
question. Yeah,
So a student gets admitted to the school, let's say a young student, a kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and they don't have to get any immunizations to get admitted, but do they have to get any after that?
yes, there's a process, and,
What shots do they have to get?
I can get with the nursing, what exactly, polio, malaria, pertussis, there's a list of vaccinations that happen.
TB?
There's TB, yep. Well, no, there'd be monitoring for TB, that's all, there wouldn't
It's
be,
not a required inoculation?
not that I'm aware.
Okay, so can you get a list of what those inoculations are?
I can.
And can you also get us a list of any communicable diseases that were diagnosed by students that, other than what's required for inoculations? So, for example, if TB is not required, are there, I don't mean today, because you've been clear that there's no incidence of communicable diseases, but that can change over time.
It can.
Or you might have symptomatology that hasn't manifested itself, that might a week from now, or 2
There
weeks
is an
from
incubation
now, or
period.
3 weeks from now.
You're right.
So, is there any monitoring of that?
Well, there is. There's a school nurse that would be looking at that.
One school nurse for all the schools?
That is the system in place as far as if a student or a staff member or anyone in our community, if they present at an urgent care or a hospital or primary care, that's where the communicable disease reporting happens. That's the network that's in place.
Okay.
Students don't, I mean, if a family member, they wouldn't self-diagnose. It's done through a medical professional. That's how the reporting happens. And then that's put onto a
No, there's
dashboard.
degrees of medical professionals, right? I mean,
That's the only way it lands on the primary care physician. That's where that whole
okay,
system.
you mentioned that there were two.
Those are the actual inoculations required for
Thanks.
Massachusetts.
You mentioned that there was two nurses there from the medical response team when you went. How often are they at this facility screening people?
So that's a great question. They were going to stay there until I went back on, that was on Tuesday, the first Tuesday that they were there. They arrived on Sunday, I went Tuesday morning. I went back on Thursday, they were there again. I asked them, they said they were going to stay, 2 RNs were there until everyone has been profiled and cataloged for their medical needs. Now, I didn't bump into them again. I never saw them again. They may have been there. They were going to stay until everyone, their charge was to make sure everyone has a medical assessment.
Okay.
But they were there within 48 hours of individuals. And again, at that point, it was a small census. It was the first phase of individuals
I
coming.
think there was like 6 families or something initially.
Your first meeting, there was a concern, there is no medical on site. As a matter of fact, there was medical on site.
Okay. Bob, when you talk to the school about the reimbursement and versus our cost per student, and it's a few $1,000s short, and let's say probably more than 2 and less than 3,000 per capita, does that include special education, or is that a separate category of expenses that would not fall within that calculation? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In other words, does the reimbursement based on the average cost per student in the state, which is short of our cost per student, or putting it another way, our cost per student exceeds the average cost per student in the state, does that factor in
It is,
special education, which is a real budget driver, and does it factor in care for the medically fragile, which sometimes is a huge cost?
so those costs are calculated on an average basis over the entire population. So they are inclusive of some special education costs, but it's not comparing, like if you say that 100% of this group is special education. No, it's averaged among all of the students. So,
But it would include special ed?
Yes.
As far as you know, okay. This normally would not entail any public comment, but because of the level of concern and the level of anxiety in the community, I am going to take some questions that people have. I don't really want you to get into a lot of personal opinions or, I don't like this. I think you're in good company when you say you don't like what's happening. But if you have questions, especially based on the things that are, the issues that have been reported, I'd like to hear what they are, sir. Gentleman in the blue shirt. And then, ma'am, we'll go to you. You had a question.
Hi, my name's Joe Britt, and I'm here at the meeting to observe this. I've been reading about it, watching all the news stories. And what I was concerned with is I'm standing here, and it almost sounds like, I have my opinion and my view of, the Cape has too many people, there's pollution, the environment, all the rules that commission, everyone's made all these different rules to keep things small in Cape Cod. It's meant for tourist people. And when I'm standing here, it doesn't seem like the people that are here don't seem like they're really, or at least I don't, I'm not judging it, but doesn't seem like anyone's on the same page as the people here. It seems like they're more worried about I'm not great at this. I'm really just trying to see where do you guys stand on this issue? What is your personal opinion? Do you think it's sustainable for Cape Cod to do this right now?
The governor herself.
Several reasons.
The governor herself says it's not sustainable.
Okay, so I've heard in the paper that other towns have refused to take them and put up a little bit of a fuss, and I just don't see any. I see the people all coming out and doing things, and I don't hear anything different than the first time.
If your question is, can we take some action and put them on a bus and send them away, the answer is no. We don't have that. We don't have that.
I was curious on how you guys feel about it.
Power or authority to do that.
I was wondering how you feel about it.
Feel about what?
About the situation. What's your opinion of it? If you like my neighbor or something, but you're representing the town, I've been a resident here forever.
I think we're all as surprised and shocked as you are that this happened and that we didn't get any advance notice that it happened. And we wrote to the governor, and the letter was signed by the full board expressing our views, and that letter's on our website.
Well, to say everything look up on the website, I don't know.
It's not everything.
Something doesn't seem right to me.
Everything's not on our website, but as much information as we can get up there and as verifiable as it is.
So when
we don't just put up stuff that we hear. We got to get verification. We got to make sure it's accurate.
I understand.
We got to, if it's a health issue, we got to make sure it's verified by our health director. If it's something from the state, we got to make sure that our town administrator is directly communicating with somebody from the state. And when we can verify that, we post it.
Okay, and you're going to enforce the rule about the motels? Because remember, we had a problem with people living in motels year-round. It ended up being a big crime area.
You heard our town administrator say that we will do everything, and we are doing everything that we can to enforce our local zoning bylaws, and that is an accurate statement.
It seems like a bad situation, sticking people in a little teeny place that's meant for people to spend the weekend.
I agree with you.
And now, then I'm listening to all the good, everything's going great, but I was just, wish there was something.
I think everybody is saying everything's going great.
No, I was talking about
I don't think anybody's saying that.
Well, I'm just saying, I haven't heard anything that was like progress on anything in the direction of it not being a viable thing now.
No, I've seen a lot of stuff progressing here. There's a lot of information coming out here.
Wait a minute, time out. Do you want to, no, you okay, Vita, go ahead.
Okay, Vita Morris. On the reimbursement, I just want to kind of fill out a little bit of what you were driving at, the chair, the $21,557 per student expenditure, the latest available, is based on across the board of students. Now we have a very specific population coming in, so that $18,000, which is $3,000 below what the one across the board is for, wouldn't even begin to cover, because they are the highest of the high needs, in other words. So it's going to be more, the difference is going to be much more than $3,000. It's
We
going to be.
don't know, we're gonna, you may very well be right, but I think it's gonna take some time to verify that, to see what the experience is. As I think you know, the reimbursement is based on a state average.
Yeah.
So it's lower than our actual cost, even without factoring in your concerns.
Yeah, but that's, okay. I want to ask Mr. Gardner, are you saying that today there is no requirement for TB vaccination in the school districts?
No. What I tried to say was that homeless individuals, through federal law, that's not state, federal law, McKinney-Vento,
these are required.
A homeless individual state is allowed to go into school, and then they work through the process.
No, but no, I'm asking you whether there is a requirement for the U.S. children, for a TB vaccination?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do, I'd rather have Christian Dwyer, who oversees, she's the school nurse, and she oversees, and I'd like to put a comprehensive list together of everything that is required for entry. And some individuals have this, as they have said, some come with full vaccinations. Some have a full medical profile, and they're all set to go to school. They were actually in school just outside of Boston, and now they're transferring here.
No, I was just very surprised if I misunderstood the question, but I mean the statement, because I remember about 70 years ago, we had required TB vaccination in the schools back then,
There's religious exemptions, not every, I think there's a
I mean, these kinds of things, but I'm
Not
talking
everyone.
about.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't want to step on your conversation.
Okay, and the debate's gonna take a lot of time, and I don't think he has all the answers to that, so what we're gonna do is you're gonna ascertain what are the required inoculations,
Yarmouth
correct?
asking, what is Yarmouth School Department? I don't deal with that on a regular basis. I deal with communicable disease, but what does the Yarmouth School ask for as far as the process to go in, to be fully vaccinated? But make no mistake, individuals do go into school, and well before this process,
Yeah,
they
I
went
know
into school.
there's exemptions,
prior to-
yeah.
Not exemptions, but yeah, if they're deemed homeless, they go right into school, they're enrolled.
It's just the Massachusetts website.
I will find it.
But
Can I just ask one?
No, Dorcas, why don't you read to him what the Massachusetts website indicates?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have gone to the Massachusetts.gov website, and I put in a request for what are required for vaccines of schools in Massachusetts. Students in kindergarten through 12th grade are required to be immunized with DTaP/TDAP, polio, MMR, hepatitis B, and varicella vaccines. That's it.
So it doesn't seem to have TB in it.
MMR is TB.
Oh, it is TB?
Exactly.
Oh, is that what it is?
MMR is TB. That's it's planted under the skin.
So
It's-
that's
required.
required. yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Can I just ask, I don't think anybody here has the answer. It's very interesting that the great number of students landed in Baker School. So how did that, I mean, after all these people sort of temporarily, let's hope, residents of Yarmouth, and they've been placed in the Baker School.
It's up to the school department.
I guess we would have to ask the school department. How did that
I'm
happen?
not sure what the question is.
Yes, to answer that question, you would have to speak to the school department to know why they selected Baker as the location for their elementary students.
It may be grade. I mean, they're a K through 2 school.
No,
through
actually,
3.
there are 3 elementary schools in
The
the
district.
DY school system. And there's M.E. Small, there is Station Avenue, and there is Baker. And it was a determination by the school department as to where those children would be located. So you'd have to talk directly to them about that.
Curious, okay. probably shouldn't have brought it up. It's better that they're there than here.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
And Marilyn Connolly, my question would be, the children are allowed to go to school unvaccinated. Is there a time frame in which that requirement has to be met, and who follows up on it?
Sure. Through the chair. That is done through the school nursing program. And as the head nurse had said, there's a process to that. I don't know the exact, it has to be done within the first month. There's a certain time frame to it, but they do follow up
So
on
it could be
vaccinations.
a year or 2 years, or?
I don't know what that process is, but it doesn't go unattended. They make sure that the vaccinations are being done.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Yes. Ma'am, in the blue sweater, did you have a question? Did you? Because if you did, you're next. Go ahead.
Kent Dumont again. I'm kind of late coming to this party. From what I've seen when I first became interested in it, and from what I'm seeing now, I'm seeing a lot of information that keeps coming out. And you're doing your best to inform us by putting the stuff on the website. Where? I hate websites. I hate to look for things, and I can't find them. So that's a question. But, Mr. Chairman, is there anything you guys have dropped the ball on?
That we have?
Yeah.
We're trying to find the ball.
Or is it a case of?
Never mind, drop it. When Mark alluded to a real communication problem, I mean, that's really an understatement. And it's not just Yarmouth. There's complaints across the state with last-minute notice or after-the-fact notice. I think there was an article that I saw in Wareham. They're all upset because the same thing that's happened to us has just happened to them. So before you can intelligently respond to a problem, you gotta know what it is, and you gotta find out as much information as you can about it. And we've been trying to do that. Our town administrator's been trying to do that. He's been meeting ever since he got the initial notice with all the department heads that could be potentially affected. What are we gonna do? You know, how are we going to approach this problem, et cetera. We try to get information from whatever source we can, from the governor's office itself, from the legislators, from our health department, from our building department, and try to assimilate this information and put it in our attorney, our town attorney, who we've met with tonight for an hour, and we met with a couple of weeks ago to learn about what our legal options are. So, to my knowledge, the answer to that question, as far as I know, we have not overlooked anything. But we don't know everything either.
So you can't think of a thing you don't know?
No.
For myself and my family, our assessment is you guys are doing what you can do. I'm very pleased to see the response and how you guys are following up on different things. Particularly, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, the healthy guy here.
Healthy guy.
So anyway, we're very pleased that you're doing what you're doing. And again, it's the kind of thing that as an issue arrives, you deal with it. What more can we do? And as you said, I'm sure there are certain issues that are going to appear. And again, I'll assume you guys are going to deal with it the way you have so far. We're in a situation that the state has put us in. And I think you guys are doing a hell of a job, frankly, if it means anything. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, all the things that gentleman said about the Cape, its antiquity, all those things are true, and all those things are shared, I think, by everybody. Route 28, motels on Route 20 is not the place for housing. And that's our tourist corridor. Really, that's where you should be seeing your miniature golf and your restaurants and all of the things that people want to do when they come on vacation. And as our health director said, to warehouse people in motels is contrary to those ends, contrary to those objectives. I think this could have a profound effect on tourism if it continues for a long time, for a lot of reasons. And I won't get into all of them. Some of them I just mentioned, but perception is a very important thing. If tourists, whether they're right or they're wrong, whether they're concerned about who these people are, or whether they're concerned about safety issues, or whether they're concerned about communicable diseases, even if all that's false, if that's the concern, that can drive them away and them saying, we're going to go somewhere else. We're not going to come here. And that's a big concern that I have, and that we're a tourist economy.
Question.
That's what we are. And I think we're always going to be. There's others that disagree with me and think that we can somehow convert this magically into more of a year-round economy, but I'll believe it when I see it. As far as, we have beautiful beaches, we have a beautiful environment, and that's why people come here. And I don't think Route 28, I wasn't really wild, even though the housing projects that we put on Route 28 are nice and well done. I was not a big advocate then because myself and another person who was on the board then, Eric Tolley, who was an architect, we both said, if you're going to put housing on 28, where are you going to do your commercial redevelopment? That's a business district. So, yeah, we don't know how long they're going to be here. We do know that when the state put out their RFR, requests for responses, we call them RFPs, requests for proposals, they did mention that they wanted options from these motels to renew their rights to house people for up to 10 years. Now, I'm not saying that that's the arrangement at this motel, but that's what they were seeking. So, is the RFR on our website?
I don't believe it is.
It's not. We should put it up there.
Yeah, we can. We have.
Is it up there?
It's not up there yet. It'll be up there tomorrow.
It was up there. It was dated in April when they were trying to get facilities to cooperate with them for housing. And it's 13 pages long, but you should read it. It's a very interesting document. And I wouldn't be equipped to talk to you about it unless our town administrator ferreted it out on the government website and then gave it to me. So
the dark web.
He's been very diligent in terms of trying to protect the town's interests. Go ahead.
Hi, Paul Chaffee, Director of Technology for the Town of Yarmouth. Just to give you an answer on where is it on the website. After the last meeting, we immediately put up on the top banner on our website a button that says Migrant Updates. So you can find everything there. You'll find the older stuff on the bottom, but as we go, we're going to continue to put anything that we can verify. We meet with the town manager many times during the week to ascertain any information that we can. Once it's gleaned, it's put in a news release, and it's then posted on the website. So it's there. There's a button you can punch and get right to the site.
Paul, while you're up there, perhaps for the non-computer friendly folks out there, you might also give what the website address is for our town website?
Surely. It's simply yarmouth.ma.us.
Okay.
Is our website. If you go in, you want to do a search, you can just put in Yarmouth, Massachusetts. Make sure you don't get Yarmouth, Maine.
Even I found it, and I'm technologically deficient, and I didn't have any problem finding it.
Cheryl Ball, live in Yarmouth. And just to kind of follow up on this whole point about getting the word out and having something online. Online is great, but I know that I've been out there waving my signs for the last 4 weeks, and I still feel like no one knows what's going on in this town. And I want to know if you guys are going to be doing anything to make sure that everyone who's a property owner or a resident in this town is well aware of what's going on, because I don't think a lot of people just know to go to the website and find this stuff. I think a snail mail letter, the old-fashioned way, is warranted for this. And I think I'm all in favor of using my tax money to have you guys do that. It's a monumental effort for somebody like me to do that, but I think that our residents and our taxpayers deserve that. They need to have a notice about what's going on.
I'm going to make a couple comments. I'm going to pitch this to Mark Forrest, because Mark and I have had a in-depth discussion on this issue over a period of years, with the fact that we don't get covered by the newspapers anymore. Back in the day, before COVID, we used to always have a Cape Cod Times reporter in here and a reporter from the Yarmouth Register every single meeting. So everything we did, there was newspaper articles being printed. Now, there's none of that. So it's much, much harder to get the word out. But Mark, do you want to comment?
No, I would agree. There are other communities that actually have regular coverage, and for the life of me, I don't understand why the Bourne Select Board gets covered all the time. I'm always reading about the Bourne Select Board in the Cape Cod Times. But as Chairman Stone had mentioned, Yarmouth benefited by actually having regular news coverage. Some of you might remember the Register newspaper, and it had everything in it. You could follow our deliberations, our discussions, any controversial topic in town would certainly be covered in the newspaper. So we're at a huge loss. So this is part of the problem that we've been confronted with. So what we as a board have agreed to do is to beef up our communications program. It's not where we want it to be, but we're getting it there. As the administrator had mentioned, we just recently hired a communications director. Who would have ever thought you needed to hire someone to help communicate to the public? But that's now a full-time position. We never even, when I first came on the board, I never even thought we'd ever need something like that. But because of the demise of the local press and the local media, we now have that function. We're in the process of developing a communications plan so that we can have almost institutionalized a game plan for getting information out to people on a more regular basis. And as has been mentioned tonight, is, not everyone is computer savvy. So periodically using the mail is an important aspect of getting the word out. So I think your point about using the mail and doing that, I think, is well taken. We're well aware of that. I just also want to point out that this is the reason why we bring these topics up at our board meetings, because we know people there's a segment of the community that follows our meetings on TV, or if they can't watch it that night, they'll actually watch a rerun of it on either YouTube or on our website, because we catalog these and we make them available, and we'll even push those out on social media. So we've come a long way in a few years. We've got quite a ways to go, but we've heard this message. Your point has been a regular topic of board discussions.
I think this issue in particular is one that definitely needs a special
I would agree.
letter.
We've had we have realized that on not just this issue but other important issues. We did print media on wastewater. You probably got a mailing on wastewater at home, right? That's something that we would not have done to the extent that we did it. But that's the first time we had a pretty aggressive push on that. So you're talking about something that's near and dear to my heart, and I guess I would say everybody on the board, because we had a goal-setting session, and again, this became a hot topic. So I think
If you need help on what to craft in that letter, let me know, because I've already started a pamphlet. So
I understand. And I want to commend the chairman for keeping this issue as a topic on our agenda. We're all very interested in it, just as you are. We all want to know what's going on. We all want to know what the costs and the impacts are. We want to know what else might be coming down the road. And we want to look at opportunities where we can weigh in with state and federal officials about the problems and the issues that we're wrestling with here. You know, I don't want to digress too much, but I do remember a time when the federal, state, and local governments actually worked together. And when we needed help with something, that actually there'd be people on the other end of the phone answering it and really working hard to help us address issues. But I regret to say that here we are in 2023, and the reality is that this is not the case anymore. Oftentimes we are basically told, so now I know that you're not hearing me being angry and getting engaged in all sorts of outrage, but I can tell you outside of these meetings, we get very spirited in our conversations. We have to look respectful and add to a sense of civility and decorum here, but I can tell you that we've had some pretty ripe discussions and interactions with other officials about what's going on. Just because we're not displaying that here in a very raw form, don't think for a minute that it isn't displayed, outside of this and really engaging in direct communications. We know we can do a better job in dealing with this issue. We know we can. This is the United States of America. We've dealt with bigger problems than this before, but we're not doing it. We're not doing it right, and we're not doing right by local communities. And as Chairman Stone said, we're not the only ones. And the demise of local press is not just us. It's happening all around the state. It's all around the country. There are other communities who have less. I mean, we're doing more to communicate than a lot of other communities are. So the frustration that you've experienced in some other communities where this is going on, it's even much greater. But,
It's simple to me, instead of spending $45 million a month as a state on this, why don't we spend $45 million a month on Border Patrol and get the hearings down at the border so that we don't have to bring them into our communities and we don't have to deal with this madness?
Yeah, if I can just respond again. Sure. One of the things that's great about local government is we're not going anywhere. We're here. We meet in public. You have access to us every time we meet. Oftentimes, these problems trickle down to us, and then we end up getting most of the feedback. We're certainly communicating to our other officials. I would encourage you to, I know that you're doing that, but keep letting your state and federal officials know just how concerned you are. It's good that we're hearing from people, but it's also important that they hear from folks as well. And I would encourage you to continue to do that, because that's where really the big solutions are, with your federal and state officials, with the Congress, with the president, with the state legislature and the governor. Everybody's got to work together on this, and because we're not, and that's a problem.
I just have one more. There's a comment. I don't know if you're aware or not, but there was a news article that came out today that Bourne has decided that they are going to enforce their zoning laws, and they are going to have the people in their hotels removed. So maybe you guys need to be talking to them to see exactly what they're doing over in Bourne.
I think they're talking to us.
Well, the article came out today. I don't know. Did anyone else see it? Yeah. So it's.
Did you hear the town administrator's report?
No.
Okay. Well, here our town administrator made a very clear announcement in terms of what we're doing.
So the town is enforcing its zoning to the full extent of the law, and I think we even have stronger zoning than in Bourne, and I think they're looking for ways to piggyback on what's happening here in Yarmouth.
Okay. Well, I'm just my point is just that they said in their article that they are going to remove the people that are in the building after their and I think it was less than 30 days there. Yeah, it was 3 weeks. Yeah. So.
I think the article, though, said they were going to write to the governor about clarification. There was some caveats in that article. I don't think
You might want to look at that article closely.
Just anyway, I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
Suffice it to say, we can't comment on litigation strategy that's in executive session, but we're meeting with our town attorney for a reason.
Understood. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
In the back.
Yes, come on up.
Hi, guys. Heather Swenson. Just piggybacking on you, sorry, Mr. Forrest. I'm just wondering, State Senator Sear, Kip Diggs, and is it Chris Flanagan is the other one? Have they reached out to you, the local board? Have you reached out to them asking, like, if you're not getting anything from the governor, or like you say for us as townspeople to reach out to them, but as a board, have you reached out to them looking for help? And if so, have you gotten a response, or where are they? Like, why don't they attend? Have you asked them to attend your meetings? Obviously, we all know that there's an agenda. They could look it up and know where to show up as well. But have they actually been invited to come and speak to you and give you maybe a little bit of an insight on how to deal with this or what they're doing? They all just, I believe, signed a letter September 22nd or 23rd that went to the president about illegal immigration. So they're talking about it or doing something about it, and they're signing letters. So it would be nice if they made an appearance in their local areas that they represent and spoke with us, spoke with you.
Excellent question, really is. I'm going to start with our town administrator because he's had a lot of direct dialogue.
No, I just want to say that we've had open and continuous communications with the legislative delegation. And I would say, I have some thanks for the legislative delegation and the efforts early on, especially with Chris Flanagan. We were almost stonewalled by the governor's office, just not getting any information at all. And it was the legislators that helped open up some lines of communication so that we began to get more regular updates. And so, but, we want to encourage you to contact your legislative delegation as well as local residents. They hear from us as a local government all the time, but what really fuels that system is hearing directly from constituents. So please don't miss that opportunity.
Yeah, because they know you're voters and you're the reason that they're in there or that they can be removed. You have that power. And so all of us, we're a town, but we're 5 votes. If you guys got hundreds or thousands of people out there, numbers get politicians' attention. They do. And so don't get discouraged, write to them, call them, send them letters, whatever. Don't relent on that. That's very important. Mark, did you want to say anything?
No, I think don't be cynical about this, all right? It's making the call. The calls get logged in. I used to work for a congressman. We logged in every call. There's a system that they have in place where they log in calls. They know if people are angry about something. Usually after, everyone has their own volume, but it's important for people to reach out. Even if you think the representative doesn't agree with you on an issue, it's important that they hear from you. They're there to represent you. Most of them, I know people might disagree with me on this, but the reality is that they do listen, they do pay attention, and they certainly pay attention to the numbers. And I know that they've heard, our delegation has heard from us, and they've heard from us loudly and clearly that what's going on, has some real issues and some real problems here. And as the administrator said, there's a pretty much an ongoing dialogue right now. But as he also said, you have that opportunity as well, and don't be discouraged at all in doing that, reaching out. I would also say some of you, there's some new faces here, and I would also encourage you to stay involved in the town of Yarmouth's activities. We have a town meeting coming up this fall. We have other things going on. I'd like to channel this passion into other ways. into the service of our community and our government. Local interest, local involvement is key in terms of local government surviving. So we need volunteers for committees. We need people to participate in town meetings. So I hope your interest doesn't just stop at this issue, but it stays with a host of other issues as well. So I would encourage you to just continue to stay engaged and stay involved beyond just this particular issue. We've got a lot of important issues, and your passion, obviously, we'd love to figure out a way to tap into it.
I think you had people's hands up also.
To answer the lady's question, I did receive a few phone calls from Chris Flanagan, state representative. I have not heard from anyone else.
Julian Sear didn't offer to be at this meeting.
Huh?
Julian Sear didn't offer to be at this meeting.
Ask Mark about
I got a
that.
text earlier this afternoon that Julian Sear said that he offered to be at this meeting and was told not to come. Is that the case?
No, he's offered right along. He said that when he's invited in, he'll come and make a presentation.
But he wasn't told to stay away.
No, he wasn't told to stay away. I mean, we had the agenda was already all set, but he's been in communication, and he's offered to make a presentation in front of the board, and he's also been instrumental of, his communication is pretty strong with the governor's office on this program, and, we've had him, he's been a critical linchpin in having the information from our local community brought to the governor's office, the specific concerns with the Yarmouth Resort, the specific concerns with expanding this program here, all of those things. So we're in constant contact with Senator Sear, and he's offered to make presentations before the board.
Yeah, I think we can get him on the agenda, and I would offer the same opportunity to the other two state reps at the same time, perhaps, to come in with Senator Sear and have people ask questions. I'd be fine with that. I'm not so sure you're going to get the quantity of information you're seeking, because I think Julian probably has a better line of communication than the others do. But I think with Chris, he has told us information that he believed in good faith was accurate that turned out not to be accurate, because that's what he was told. So they're kind of fighting the same fight we are to a certain degree. There's no real well-orchestrated plan that's going on here with this migrant issue. I think it's like they're trying to put out fires as they come. And, and then there's the blame game. They're blaming Washington for everything and asking, them to do something about the immigration issue and provide funds for the state. We're the last ones in the food chain, and we bear the brunt of it, actually. But we're hoping that we're going to get enough financial assistance in the meantime to make sure we don't bear too heavy of a burden. But having said that, we're not content with the situation. We are in close contact with our attorney, and we will do everything we can to enforce our zoning bylaws.
Mr. Chairman, if I just closing up, many times public health is in the situation of immunizing the community with good information, right? We're trying to immunize with good information. How we communicate and engage and educate the community is many times the measure of success. I hope today's presentation from the town administrator, from the Department of Public Health, gave some assurance to the community that there are safeguards and there's surveillance in place. It's not a perfect product by any means. I understand the emotion that's going on, but it is being watched. For the residents that are there, very vulnerable population, and the community at large, there are safeguards in place. And that education and information, and we'll call it immunization that goes on with information, that'll continue.
Well, like Mark's alluded to before, as long as this thing is developing, as long as we're getting more information, we're going to keep it on the radar screen in terms of our agenda, and so that we can, let the public know everything that we know.
Glad to be a part of it.
Thank you for coming in.
Okay, that means.
Anyone else? Okay, let's move on to the next item. We have a vote for approval of borrowing from the Mass Clean Water Trust Financing Agreement, DWP 2318, for well 4 and 5 package for PFAS treatment system.
And these are the 0% loans that the board has authorized our application for, and we've been successful in the award. And so this is the Clean Water Trust Financing Agreement. That's the next step forward, needs to be approved by the board.
And Mr. Chairman, the amount of money we're talking about is?
$3,584,154.
And this is for funding that was approved at town meeting, correct?
Correct.
Do you have a clean copy of this agreement that we're supposed to sign? Or is it in the folder?
It's in the packet.
In there.
Or in the folder.
Do we have to vote on it too, or just sign the agreement?
There, the motion should be approved. It's the last page, voted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then it's signed by the clerk. So there's a specific motion that's in your packet.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to
last
make
page.
this motion. Oh, this has to be made by the clerk. Who is the clerk of our?
He has to, the clerk has to sign it, but
This is the motion. We have to read this into the record.
Motion.
you could just say as presented. You don't have to read the whole thing.
Mr. Chairman, I
Last
move
two.
to approve the motion as presented in our packet.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the motion in the packet.
And if I can further amend that, let's put it this way. I move that we approve the motion that is in the packet regarding the approval of borrowing from the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust under the financing agreement DWP-23-18 for the well 4 and 5 package PFAS treatment plant system.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is that adequate, Bob?
Yes.
All right. Any discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote on this. Peter?
I vote aye, and also I am the clerk. I will be back in town on late Friday afternoon, so I'll come by on Monday to sign the document, if that's acceptable to Bob.
Is that all right?
Sure.
Mark?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Dorcas?
Aye.
The chair votes aye as well. Passes by a unanimous vote with all members present. This is, did you say this is, no, this is the clerk signs this one, right?
Right.
Do we sign on this?
There's another special one in here.
No, but on this particular one?
Not on the clerk's one, but there's one in here that we signed, yeah.
Which one is it? This one?
It's on page 5 of the certificate.
Page 5?
Yep.
Where your little sticky notes are.
Right, and then there's
Here it is.
and then on the interim loan note, page 1.
Just keep
Now,
going,
is there
your
a
sticky
second
notes.
page on this? Or is this a different? Oh, this is the interim loan note. That's a separate document, right?
Correct.
Do we need a vote on that, or do we just need to sign it?
Just needs to be signed.
Just signed? Okay. Okay, that's done. I'll put these over here so we know we've taken care of them. What else we got? Where's my...
Your agenda?
Yeah, I buried it. Here it is. I put the file on top of it. So we're done with that one. Now we have a discussion for the Cape Cod Metro Planning Organization election process.
You want me to give you just a quick rundown on this? And this has been on the agenda before, but we wanted to take this opportunity to put it on one more time, just to go over the details, because it precludes action by the board. This is only action that can be taken by individual members of the Board of Selectmen. So what it is that the Cape Cod Metropolitan Planning Organization has an election of its sub-regional representatives for a 3-year term, which begins January 1, 2024. Now, we're in sub-region B, which is the town of Yarmouth and the town of Dennis. And again, board members act individually, and they bold it and underline it, and I even made it yellow with my highlighter, so we wouldn't miss that no actions will be taken collectively by any board member or any select board. So there is a meeting of the Metropolitan Planning Organization on October 16. And the chair at that meeting will accept nominations for this position with the 3-year term. Select board members may self-nominate, or you may make a nomination of one of your colleagues on the board. The key is you have to either attend that meeting on October 16 and make your nomination, or you may communicate your nomination to staff prior to the meeting. And that communication must, this is again with the bold, be sent to, and it's stupper@capecodcommission.org, and must be received by October 10. So if you can't make the meeting, you have to send an email to stupper at that address by October 10. And once those nominations are in place on the 16th, an election will take place on November 20, 2023 at a posted CCMPO meeting. And select board members vote at that time. And if you're unable to attend that meeting and vote, you'll have an opportunity to submit an absentee ballot via email. And so the idea is that it's Yarmouth's turn to have a representative here. So someone should self-nominate or make a nomination. So members should probably, have an idea who's interested in filling that spot.
So when does the nomination have to be made by?
October 16. And if you can't make the meeting, it's October 10 through email.
Mark, you're already involved in this, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am. It's, as a county commissioner, I represent the county on the MPO. And because I'm a transportation infrastructure geek, that's basically my major motivation.
When did you say, I know I asked this question before, but I don't remember the answer. When did you say the meetings were?
The meetings are typically on Mondays, one Monday a month, and they typically go for about 90 minutes, starting at 1 p.m., usually.
Anybody interested in that position?
No. Conflict, I have a conflict.
No and a no. How about Peter Q?
I often have a conflict on Mondays, a medical conflict.
What do you say?
He has a medical conflict.
Oh, he has a medical conflict. So that, does it have to be a board member?
I believe so.
So we're getting,
Yeah,
we're thinning out here.
we are.
Bob, do you attend these meetings?
Jeff Colby does.
Jeff Colby.
Jeff does?
Right.
And who is he representing?
He's just there.
Large?
No, I think Jeff is on the Joint Transportation Committee, and as a DPW director, he's one of many transportation committee members or DPW directors that will sit in and just observe.
This has to be a board member.
Yeah, Jeff doesn't vote, he just observes.
Should we appoint him
I don't,
to be a voting member?
Yeah. Does
It
it have
says in here, a select board
Yeah.
member.
It does?
Yeah, the requirements are the federal law. If you designated somebody, that would sort of it would raise questions about the validity of their vote.
I see.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
if I can get, I do have an interest in this, and if I can get a list of when meetings are and stuff, I probably can work around most of them. Meaning the medical issues that I have.
Could, let me ask you this question. Could 2 members do it?
Well, you could have one member and an alternate.
You
All
can.
right? So you could have one selectman as the member and another selectman as the alternate.
The alternate would just fill in if the member couldn't make it?
Correct. You could do that.
And could the alternate vote in the member's absence?
Yes. So, for example, on the dates, to answer Peter's question, the September MPO meeting was held on the 18th at 1 p.m. The August meeting was canceled, but it would have normally been held on the 21st of August at 1 p.m. The July MPO meeting was held on the 24th, 1 p.m. And all of the meetings are virtual, Mr. Chairman.
No, you
All of
mentioned-
them are
you
virtual.
mentioned that, yeah.
Sounds like it's the third Monday of the month.
Correct. So I'm just providing more detail to what I had said previously. So, and then in June, it was on the 26th. Now, that's the last Monday of the month, but 1 p.m. So it's either the 3rd or the 4th, depending on what may be going on.
By this deadline, do you have to designate the alternate as well as the member?
I don't think there's any alternates. It doesn't say anything about an alternate.
Other boards have had alternates. Dennis had an alternate.
I think it's more informal.
Yeah. It may not say it, but the town of Dennis, which has been represented, had an alternate. So Jim Plath was the Dennis representative. Prior to him, Cheryl, I forget her last
So
name.
it switches you.
Yeah, it's the board's designation. It's the board that makes the designation of its individual. So it's Yarmouth's turn to be represented for the next term of the MPO.
What, a year?
No, I think, what is it, 2 years?
3-year term.
3-year term. So whoever we choose, now, I mean, you could conceivably, as a board, decide that 1 year you're going to appoint somebody for a year, or change the representative every year. You can appoint, let's say, Peter Q. Smith. We as a board could do that, and with the understanding that after a year it would rotate to another member, and then we as a board would take that up and send that information in to the MPO and the Cape Cod Commission staff. But
Actually, it says not as a board, collective, individual.
well, I'm just telling you that in the past,
We could
this is-
change it. Yeah, we
Yeah.
could have somebody say, I'm going to do it for a year.
Well, typically, the way it's worked this is a Dennis Yarmouth appointment. And we have generally recognized that we would alternate each term. So the last 3 years, Dennis. The Dennis Board of Selectmen would choose who they would want to represent them at these meetings. And then prior to that, Yarmouth did it. So I was the Yarmouth rep before, and then when my 3-year term ended, now, the normal process, the way the law is laid out is, it's basically, it could be up for grabs. We've worked out this arrangement with Dennis. So Dennis basically defers. They're not going to put one of their own up for a vote. They're just going to defer to Yarmouth for this term. So that's kind of informally how this has worked. So in reality, it's a Yarmouth board decision. That's the way it's turned in. That's not the way the procedure is actually written. But if we've had this sort of understanding that 3 years Dennis will do it, then the next 3 years Yarmouth will do it, and then we just keep switching off.
Okay.
So that's more or less how it's been working. And it seems to go along relatively smoothly. So the decision for the past 3 terms was the Dennis Board of Selectmen decided who amongst themselves would be the rep for the 2-town region. Again, you're representing not just Yarmouth, you're representing Dennis and Yarmouth. There is a Lower Cape rep. So it's basically, the representation is largely based on population. So there is,
Barnstable in that area.
Barnstable has its own rep.
They do.
Yep. And that may be due to a number of factors, because it's a sort of a metropolitan, core urban area and a metropolitan district. And so because of that, it may have a special designation.
Falmouth have its own?
Bourne, Falmouth, Mashpee, and Sandwich are Region A.
Is that what it is?
Region A is the Upper Cape, yep, and then there's a Lower Cape one. And I will say that having representation makes a difference in terms of, the Transportation Improvement Program is voted on by the MPO. And if Yarmouth wants something on it, it's the chances of it actually moving forward improve if Yarmouth is speaking on behalf of its interests at the meeting.
Well, it sounds as if Peter's interested.
So I would recommend that we select Peter Q. Smith as our choice to serve for the Dennis Yarmouth district seat on the MPO, and that we as the board fill out our ballots nominating him to be the representative.
Okay.
So that's my motion, Mr. Chairman.
You okay with that, Peter?
Yes, I am.
Now, if Peter couldn't continue for whatever reason, what would the process be at that point?
Well, if he would resign, and then we would probably be given the opportunity to appoint a successor.
So you could do that?
Yes.
Okay.
It wouldn't be like the seat's vacant for the
So
term.
do we have to vote now on Peter's nomination?
Yeah, I would recommend that we do that.
Okay. We'll have a roll call vote. Mark?
Aye.
Dan? Aye. Dorcas?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so that's 5-0. Unanimous vote. Okay, good. Thank you, Peter.
So I would recommend that we all submit our ballots. Each of us have a ballot, so we should submit a ballot with his name in it. And I would recommend that Bob inform the Steve Tupper at the Cape Cod Commission that we as a board have chosen. And
Is there a form here to sign?
be a form. You're supposed to.
There's no ballot, but, and I'm happy to notify him, but I would just encourage, if I could get an actual member of the board, like it says on the piece of paper, to submit Peter's nomination by October 10, then we will have fulfilled what they're asking for.
If you can get something, can you get something I can sign?
Oh, sure.
And I'll run down and sign it.
Absolutely.
All right.
We'll take care of it.
So I'll do the nomination. I'll sign it. All right, good. Review and approve draft goals.
On that previous matter, Mr. Chairman, just one other point. I am happy if you need a signature on a letter so that we all have, by virtue of the letter, we're all casting our vote. If that's procedurally something that's necessary, I have no problem with an electronic signature.
Bob's saying all he wanted was a nomination, right?
Yeah, but all I'm saying is
Not by the board, but by an individual.
Yes.
Right, but I'm also saying that if we need to have a signature on a letter that goes in affirming that he's the one we want, I am very comfortable with you adding my name to a letter with a signature on that.
Okay, so we got the goals, which are 7. There's focus areas underneath the goals. But,
Maybe for the benefit of the public, we should let folks know, I'm very proud of this Board of Selectmen that took time out of their schedule to devote an entire Saturday 2 weeks ago to developing priority goals for the next upcoming year. And this is, you know, an update of goals that the board had established earlier. And we have the detail presenting on the goals. And in addition to each goal mentioned, and there are 7 priority goals, the board also established some areas of focus that they wanted attention paid to during that. So kudos to the Board of Selectmen, policy makers for the town, establishing priority goals, which is, for my purposes, extraordinarily helpful. That, you know, we've already, in the draft form, met with departments. People know exactly what the priorities of the town are and are already working toward developing some action steps on those. So I just, you know, for the members of the public watching on TV, they should know about the goal-setting process the board goes through.
Do we want to talk about these goals openly? I mean, do we literally want to go through each one, Mr. Chairman?
Well, just briefly, unless somebody wants to really get into it on a particular goal, but I think we should read the goal out loud first so the public can follow the discussion. I'll read the first one. Initiate an update of the Yarmouth Comprehensive Plan and develop a cohesive economic development vision that embraces the historic, cultural, and recreational assets of our community, as well as healthcare opportunities and demographic patterns. So that's the first goal. And then there's areas of focus, which are conduct a Route 28 economic corridor analysis to form the basis of the economic vision. 2 is a strong direction and buy-in required to make measurable progress. 3 is to conduct benchmarking to build on experiences of similar communities. And 4 is multi-generational focus. So that's the first goal, and the 4 points that I read after that were focus areas to implement those goals. So does anybody want to comment on that?
Want to just go down the line and?
Yeah, we're going to go down the line unless somebody wants to talk about the goal.
I think it's an important goal. I'm glad we're talking about. I think each goal is worth at least just a few minutes of a conversation. I think this is incredibly important. And I think particularly the analysis of the Route 28 corridor, I think it speaks to many of the issues that have actually emerged even in this discussion tonight on what we're doing with motels, for example. You know, what's the proper mix of housing along the Route 28 corridor? We're concerned about displacing commercial activity. We're concerned about making sure any housing that we utilize is mixed use. I think it's important that we can actually, as officials, but also residents, can make a connection with a vision that connects with zoning and that connects with us being able to make decisions on projects, or, you know, when we're asked to write a letter on a particular project, that we know that it fits within our vision or an articulated vision for Route 28. I think that's important in the overall planning process, because
also to try to build upon our commercial tax base, which is in tough shape.
Well, that's
at about 8%.
Right, and I think that comes up a lot, but the thing is, we don't really have a plan to expand it. I don't think we do.
I think one of the things that we did talk about on Saturday was, because this is something that's just been kicking around for a very, very long time, if it's necessary, I think we possibly talked about forming a committee in town to try to really drive this home. So that's an option too, just to consider, to make sure that this gets done in a timely fashion, because it's just overdue. It's been long overdue, and it's just so timely in terms of the redevelopment of 28. So I'm glad it's a priority goal, and I'm glad we're finally pushing it forward.
Anybody else on number one before I go on to
Mis-
two?
Right, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Peter.
I apologize. I have to sign off.
Oh. Okay. All right, stay well, Peter.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you, Peter. Why don't we go then to Dan for number two?
So, priority goal 2 is to adopt a broad vision for water quality protection in our town, including our ponds, our lakes, streams, estuaries, and abatements, which focuses on the public water supply protection and wastewater treatment capacity, to move forward with the development of a public wastewater treatment system. And so the areas of focus are the implementation of the Phase 1 wastewater program, budget control and financial management, communications and website, policy focus for Board of Selectmen, and regular updates. And, you know, this one speaks for itself. It's been the driving force of the town for the last year, and I think we've made tremendous strides in moving this forward. But it's such a comprehensive and long-range plan that we need to keep it as a high priority goal and just keep moving forward on it. So again, I'm excited that it's up there, and I'm confident Jeff Colby and the town staff can get us there.
Well, if I
Volunteers, right?
Anyone else want to comment on two?
I'd like to comment on specific aspects of this. One is, I'm glad that we're talking about our ponds. There's a huge regional effort to expand testing on our ponds and assist towns in developing initiatives that can help better protect water quality in our ponds. And full disclosure, I live on a pond, so I'm highly motivated on this particular topic. But I think it's very, very important. The other item that I want to flesh out a little bit more relates to water supply and water supply protection. And what I mean by that is identifying land uses and to come up with another look at threats and particular vulnerabilities to our water supplies. We're spending a lot of money on treatment, and I think sometimes it's helpful to take a step back and ask ourselves, wait a second, are there more things that we should be doing to protect our water supplies? I commend this board for pushing for the advancement of the land on Higgins Kroll, that land acquisition right next to our wells on Higgins Kroll. I've said before that corridor, that Higgins Kroll corridor, has a lot of hazardous cargo chemicals that come down that corridor. I think it's worth looking at land uses and traffic. I consider traffic and transportation a use of the land that could particularly be considered to be a threat. We don't know enough about the truck traffic, but I've heard from a number of people that have said that we should at least look at it and see if there might be a recommendation particularly to the major suppliers of chemicals and other hazardous cargo, to encourage them maybe to avoid the Higgins Kroll Road corridor and use other main corridors as a better alternative for bringing hazardous materials into the town. And I think that's a legitimate point. So when we say in our goal, focusing on water supply protection, I think that's the kind of thing that I'm looking for. It's not necessarily mentioned in an area of focus, but I think those are the kinds of things that we need to talk about as a board of water commissioners. And I would recommend that we get direction and some guidance from our water sewer superintendent and our DPW director. I've raised this once or twice before at prior board meetings. I mentioned it again to them the other day when we had a chance to go visit and see the PFAS treatment system that's under construction and under development. And because there may be things that we can do, Mr. Chairman, that might help prevent contamination, which, as we all know, is incredibly expensive. So it's a long-winded way of getting to that point.
No, good point, good point. For number 3, let me go to Dorcas on that one.
Develop a communication plan for increased civic engagement that addresses town cable television production capabilities, all social media and other means for reaching out to local residents regarding important topics of public discussion. Areas of focus is an implementation of a communications program, establishing a strategic vision with the new communications director, defining goals and deliverables for communications, and develop standardized formats for uniform consistency across town-wide messaging. This came up tonight.
Yes.
How timely could that be?
That was going to be my comment, yeah. I mean, you're right. It's right on point with the concerns that were raised. And, you know, it's kind of unfortunate about what that lady said. I mean, I don't think there was any bad intent with her remarks. I don't mean that at all, but I mean, it's kind of unfortunate that we're in that position, that people out there feel that they're not getting regular dose of communication about an important issue like this, when we're really trying everything that we know of to do that with our website, our meetings, you know, updates, reports, getting our health director in here, for example, getting, you know, engaging staff to give information. And yet, there's a feeling that we're not doing enough, and that's a reality I think we have to live with and that we have to address. But again, back to our favorite topic with Mark and I mean, when we had reporters in here, it was a totally different ballgame. I mean, you'd have this stuff all over the newspapers, and everybody would know everything about it. And they'd call you afterwards looking for quotes to build a story format to it and everything. And you get spoiled after a while, because all you got to do is make the right statements that, you know, the press is looking for, and they'll run with the story. I remember in particular when Eric Tolley was chairman, there was a guy from, I forget his name, nice young man from the Register, and he kept saying to him, the guy was going like crazy with his laptop, and he says, "Can you stop doing that? You're making too much noise. You're distracting me." Really, because the guy was like sitting very close by, and that's the kind of coverage you got. That's the kind of intensity that there was in the room. I like to see this number of people, but as one of the observers said, you know, usually you're lucky if you get a handful of people in attendance at these meetings.
Right.
So it's a challenge. It's a big challenge, and we're doing the best we can to, I hope, and I'm hoping, you know, by hiring a communications director, that's going to make a big difference. Those are my comments on that. But you're right, Dorcas, it's very, very timely.
I would say that I commend staff and town for the creation of the alerts section of the town website. I thought that was great. You know, this is where the people really are the most concerned, and they can just push one button and get right to it without having to go through some kind of list directory to find what it is that they're looking for. You know, I think that's just showing how the more we update our website, I think the more we're going to be able to be available to the people, answering the questions that they want, and they'll feel more comfortable going to the website. I mean, this is what part of what our goal is. Because right now, our website is kind of tough, I think, to communicate.
I don't think anybody disagrees with you on that. No, I think,
That alert was
I think
great.
the fact that we have a communications director now is a huge step forward. I'd like to see us make huge strides on what we're doing. I kind of have this, I would love to see, for example, a periodic newsletter go out that's not the standard heavy print and heavy written material, but is visually attractive, almost like a newspaper or a magazine, something that visually is engaging so that when you want to read the content, you want to follow the content, and has some key stories, and then there are either links or places that you can go to get more details. I've seen a lot of e-newsletters that towns put out, and they're incredibly boring. And when you get them, I'm sure you hit the delete button. So my hope is that Yarmouth, when we get our plan together, we start working with our communications director, we actually develop a plan that's sort of on the cutting edge, on the leading edge of communicating, and then, and I think this is important that we've talked about this, is the whole civic engagement aspect of it. We've been able to use social media in very skillful ways to help us as a board, and I'd like to be able to institutionalize that more, and I think having a communications director will be important. I use as an example when we had to make decisions as a board on Grays Beach and the management of Grays Beach. We put out blasts via social media weeks in advance and kept repeating them, that we had a meeting with this on the agenda, and we encouraged people to participate. And we gave them some idea of the things that we'd be talking about. So we had, and I think we had it was a hybrid meeting or maybe a Zoom meeting, but we had a very large crowd, and we were able to use that crowd and a very informed and engaged constituency to help us figure out what were the best options for dealing with the problems at Grays Beach. Perfect example of communications technology, getting the word out, and then helping people communicate to us what they thought were the best options. And it helped incredibly in us making recommendations and making decisions on that. And I think you can take that approach on so many things, right? For example, you want to get some interest in an open space and recreation plan. That's typically a real snoozer of a topic, right? But maybe there's a way to sort of key in on some key aspects of the plan and to drive some of the attention on it. And because eventually this is going to come to us to sign off on, right, Bob?
That's right.
Right. So there are just so many ways we can use these tools to help us do a better job as selectmen. And but the first key is figuring out how do you get the news out to people. Maybe we call our e-newsletter the Register.
Boy, I do miss the Register.
All right, I'm going to go to number 4 to you, Mark.
Explore the reuse and/or the redevelopment of the Mattakees Middle School property. Areas of focus: the implementation of a reuse program. First, appoint a Mattakees School Utilization Committee. 2, engage a consultant for building conditions analysis. 3, use an RFP process to attract utilization proposals. And 4, evaluate the proposals based on community needs. So that's number 4.
Okay, any comments on that? I think that's pretty self-explanatory, right?
Right.
We've talked a lot about it.
Huh?
We've talked about it quite a bit.
I'll do 5 then, and then I'll go to Dan. Promote staff retention efforts in our town government. Area focus: 1, retain positive working conditions, and 2, continue to maintain competitive wages and benefits. We found out recently how competitive some of these positions can be.
Absolutely. Folks don't know how difficult it is to maintain a high-quality workforce these days. People are not automatically staying in jobs as much as we like to think how lucky they are to work for us. It's increasingly difficult.
Well, if you looked at those resumes that we reviewed, those people moved around fairly frequently. I was really surprised. So it does seem to be the trend that people are just not staying put. Just concerning, right?
Yeah, I think under this category, one of the things that we're going to have to take a look at, just given the increasingly competitive environment, is our share on health benefits.
When we talked about that too.
Yeah, I think, and I would actually put that as an area of focus, Bob, is study, analyze, specific.
I would put it in a more general sense of a benefits package.
Okay.
Right? I mean, you don't want to
Yeah.
get ahead of
more than
the
just
collective
the health.
bargaining process too much.
I understand, but even if it's in,
But Bob's raised that point about
I know.
how we got to stay competitive on some of that stuff to expect, to attract employees, let alone retain them.
so long as it's understood that that's part of.
Bill took us to task on that one. He said unless he had a 75-25, he'd be gone.
Yeah, if he wasn't married. Right, right. Yeah. So there you go. So we got him because of his wife.
Yeah,
So
we
there
ought
you
to
go.
send her a thank you card.
She's great, too. She
Yeah.
deserves it.
Okay. Very good. So moved.
So no, that was a really good one, and I think all the department heads are struggling with that one. And I think our administrator is struggling with retention of department heads and higher up people that are constantly getting lured away.
Yeah, how many good people have we lost?
So, Dan, I guess you're next for number 6.
So this is develop additional recreational facilities and sites. The areas of focus are complete analysis and planning for an upgrade on
Should be
There's a
OV.
typo there of.
OF.
OF. Oh, okay.
You just
Couldn't
said
quite
it.
get that. Upgrade of recreational facilities. 2 is use capital improvement program to make strategic improvements. And 3, to coordinate stakeholders, including the Recreation Division, the Parks Division, and the Public Department of Public Works for a cooperative effort, which certainly they've been doing all along. And recently we did the new park over in West Yarmouth, and we're seeing just how important these types of facilities are and what a improvement in quality of life they bring. So it's well deserving of being on our.
I've never heard of anybody that's gone to that park with little kids that doesn't give it rave reviews. Nobody, not one person.
I thought it was very interesting that when we were on the water tour, we actually went by, and it was very well used at that point. And that was at 11 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. It clearly is
you
in the
go on
fall. It,
I had truck troubles.
I had a conflict too.
but it just shows that I think that it's getting a lot of use, and it's kind of really, how would I put it? I think it's made people happier. It's put a lighter, like the splash park, the playground. That it's like, wow, this is really great that Yarmouth has something like this now, and we need more of them.
I always felt like West Yarmouth was the poor cousin.
The poor, yeah, I was going to
Just
say the
not-
poor sister.
And I think a lot of people down there feel the same way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Particularly when you talk about repurposing the West Yarmouth Library, So I would say that one of the best times I had this summer was actually going to that playground, going to the splash pad.
Did you suit up?
No, I didn't.
Bob did.
But I went there to watch the kids playing, just to see how much fun they had. And if you're having, let's say you've been working all morning and you're kind of stressed out and you want to just go hear kids laugh and have a great time. One way to just change things is just to go out there and camp out and watch the kids having a blast.
I saw an email from Steve Szanski to the DPW about how much water they used.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised to see the response. It was like only 20% of what they had projected.
Yeah.
And this was a pretty hot summer.
Yeah.
So apparently it takes a lot less water than they anticipated, which is a good thing.
And the electronic controls help that because it's got a cycle, and it doesn't just keep running.
Mm. I also like the intergenerational. It was there were literally there were kids there that were toddlers up to senior citizens.
Right.
And I think that the surface, being an all-inclusive playground, I think the surface makes it safer for the senior citizens, for instance, to take the grandkids there.
And very young children too that don't have, a great sense of balance. If they fall down, they're not going to get injured. Not it things like a big sponge. It's really safe. It feels good even to walk on it. Actually, it's therapeutic.
One of the questions that I have on this item is I'm wondering if there's a way to more fully appreciate just how much our recreational facilities, we know that they're important in terms of quality of life here for Yarmouth residents, but I just think increasingly it's such a part of the visiting experience, and that we don't think of these assets, or let's put it this way, we rarely think of them in terms of the economic value and return that we get from them just by all the visitors that use our recreational facilities. I think of all the people that rave about the sailing program, for example, or used to rave about the sailing program. I'm sure they're probably still raving about it. I just don't.
Pond.
Right, Flax Pond.
Very popular program.
Definitely. Our golf courses even.
Yeah.
So when we're starting to think about economic development vision, you can't really have a full understanding of, at least of our economy, without really fully appreciating that recreation is a very important part of our economy and economic development. I think it's worth at least trying to be bold on this particular topic. If we had, what are some of the opportunities from a recreation point of view to really maybe strengthen our economic development game plan? Because when we talk about economic development, most of the time, most of the traditional thinking is we don't even talk about recreation. Recreation doesn't even factor in at all. But we know that, look at the softball fields, right? Look at all the people that come to Yarmouth.
Senior softball fields too.
Exactly. It's unbelievable.
Lifestyle for the workforce becomes a very important factor, more so now, I think, than ever before. So, yes.
Years
if we're gonna
ago, we did an inventory of, I think somebody had requested it in the administration or the board. They asked Recreation to kind of inventory the assets, and there was like a brochure that kind of put, I won't say everything, but a lot of these things together as to what opportunities there were for people that came here. And I thought that was a really good idea, and that kind of lines up with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, it's brought to our attention when we were taking the tour with the water department, just the walking trails that we have in town. And people don't really realize are there. Just
We
a
could do
simple
more.
stroll. Yeah, the simple stroll through the woods.
Yeah.
It'd be quite a nice family activity.
And you mentioned earlier too, Mark, about the historical amenities of this town too, in having a commercial value.
Yes, I actually, a longtime Yarmouth resident gave me a walking tour around Sandy Pond, and I was blown away at how much history is there, but you don't see it because if you're not informed about the kind of activities that took place there, you're missing the sights. Like, I was unaware of all the ice making that used to go on Sandy Pond, that the trails were carts where the ice used to be stored and then covered with hay. The foundations, there's still literally foundations or areas that are dug out on the slopes of the pond where these warehouses for ice used to be, and how the ice would be put on carts, horse-drawn carts, taken to Hyannis Harbor, Lewis Bay, and taken, and that was one of our big exports. Just that, and that was just by walking trails along Sandy Pond. So yeah, there's definitely opportunity to make connections. I found that when I'm there, I see a very, very different place. Because that's all that history now is all alive and well, having been on this just by accident walking tour with a longtime Yarmouth resident who knew all that stuff, who would tell stories about how it used to be back in the old days.
Wharf Lane in Yarmouthport. We actually had a working wharf there with steamships that stopped there. I mean,
Right.
yes, the history,
The packet ships down at the landing.
yeah.
Yeah, and I like the way our historical commission has been working with the parks. You know, I mean, I live on Indian Memorial. There's a very nice work done to redo the Indian Memorial, but
There
there's
was
some
supposed to be a
interpretive.
dedication on that before COVID, and it didn't happen because of COVID, and I don't think it was ever done.
No, I don't think it was.
But the signage that's there, the way that was done, that was all very smart.
So we're gonna have a big
Yeah.
formal dedication.
Mm.
Same
So-
thing with the George Lear Bridge on the bike path. They never did that either. There's a plaque there, but they never did the dedication. COVID preempted some of that stuff.
It's too bad. So I'm glad we've got this on our priorities, recreational facilities
Oh,
and sites.
I think your comments are right on point on that. So who's got number 7? Whose turn is it?
Okay, I'll take it. All right, did
Go
you
ahead.
want it? Did you want it?
No, go
Okay.
ahead.
Analyze, number 7 of our goals is analyze regional combined public safety dispatching. Areas of focus: 1, complete the intermunicipal agreement with regional partners, and 2, seek state E911 funding for implementing the project. This has been on the bucket list for years now, and now with the changes in both police and fire, I think now's the time to get back to work on this. So I'm glad we put that on the list of things to do as well.
You know, and the other thing is, you put all these goals on, and I think it was a good exercise, and I think these goals are well stated and accurately reflect the discussions. But then you get stuff that comes out of left field, like the migrant issue that you have to put 1,000 hours into, or putting cable through Lewis Bay, and, you know, those kinds of things.
yeah.
You don't even anticipate when you're doing all of this, but you got to deal with all those things as they come. Or vacancies within our department, fire chiefs. And think about all the time that we spent this year getting a new fire chief, a new police chief, and a new finance director.
They're combined, that's a lot of,
There's a lot of hours.
It's a busy year.
And we really, I think, took the mission seriously and kept the search going until we thought we found, especially with the fire chief, we found the right candidate, which I think is the way to go. I really do. And we kind of did the same thing with the finance director, too. But we got, in the last analysis, we got all really good people.
Right.
So it was worth it. But just that, I mean, it's a lot of manpower, a lot of interviews, a lot of special meetings, a lot of prep for those meetings.
You're right. Those eat up a lot of time and take away from a lot of other work, but they're.
It would be a real luxury if this is all we had to do, but I just know better. That there will be not only this issue that we dealt with tonight, but there'll be other things that'll come up that we weren't quite prepared for.
Do we need a motion to approve?
Do we need a motion on
Yes,
that?
we
that'd
do.
be great.
Yeah,
Approve the
this is.
draft.
You want to make that motion?
To approve the goals as stated this evening?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Since Peter's not remote, I don't think we have to do roll call anymore, right? We can just do an oral vote. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That passes by a vote of 4-0, one member absent. Now, we got some appointments here. Planning Board Representative, two, right?
We do. I make a motion to appoint Ken Smith as the Planning Board's representative to the Capital Budget Committee. This appointment is for a 1-year term, which will run through September of 2024.
Second.
I have a question on this one, Dorcas. Now, Ken is the planning board rep to the Water Resources Advisory Committee. So is he resigning or leaving that spot there in going to the Capital Budget Committee?
Not that I've heard of. I have
Yeah.
not received any resignations.
That's my understanding, is I think they're switching.
Right.
So what the,
Rubenstein's going to RAC.
right, so I think what we need to do is accept Ken's resignation from RAC and Will's resignation. Was he on Capital Budget, Bob? So, yeah, we got to accept their resignations from those committees. to
Or
make
is
the
it
change.
that they were a one-year term and now their term is up? Because I haven't been handed any resignations for this. I mean, that was the end of their,
No, I think you're right. I think
I
the
think
1
the
year.
terms were
I
up.
think we should, yeah, I think you're right on target there. I don't think we have to deal with the resignations. I think their term is up, and let's go with it as is. But it's with the understanding that they're leaving, Ken's leaving RAC and Will's leaving Capital Budget. So I think that should be noted, at least in our minutes somewhere, Bob.
so we have a motion on Ken Smith?
I move to, that we appoint Ken Smith to the Capital Budget Committee.
Do I have a second? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes by 4-0, one member absent.
And I'd like to move that we appoint Will Rubenstein to the Water Resources Advisory Committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes
Same
by
term?
4-0, one member absent.
Yeah, and it's the same one-year term. And again, both of these appointments are being made with the understanding that they're leaving
The other,
current appointment, the current committee, and they're switching.
Where's Mary Ann Walsh leaving from?
she isn't, it's a reappointment,
Oh,
yeah.
he was referring to the other two?
Right.
Okay.
In this case, a move to appoint Mary Ann Walsh as the Housing Authority's representative of the Community Preservation Committee. This appointment is for a one-year term, which will run through September of 2024. She's an ongoing member of the
Okay.
I'll second that.
Preservation.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes by a 4-0 vote, one member absent. Upcoming agenda review is next.
I had a call from the chairman of our Disabilities Commission, and she actually let me know that they're all set and that they would not need to be on the agenda in December. That in discussing with, actually, I believe it was the town administrator's office, they weren't looking to do bylaws, they were looking to do policies and procedures, which are not required to go through approval by us. And they also are currently working with the, they're working with the business community to address the issue of handicap parking in town. And so they feel that where they are right now, they're in good shape and they don't need to come before the board. So, just to let you know that. We didn't put them formally on the agenda yet anyway, for the future.
And we also had a request in trying to reschedule the draft technical memo on the estuarine water quality database for the 10th, that they're not available on the 10th, but can make the 17th. So what we'd like to do is to put the draft tech memo on for the 17th. So a consultant can come and present it, and Jeff Colby will be here as well.
And what is that referring to? Freshwater?
Yeah, it's the TMDLs. It's not just the freshwater, it's in the coastal embayments that they're sort of updating that study.
And that's really the focus. It's not on freshwater. The focus is on our marine environment. Yeah, and I think one of the things that we really have to do, I think we owe the residents, is sustained flow of information about water quality. You know, I know that I've seen this in other towns. I know in Mashpee, when Dr. House was alive, he would provide regular reports to the select board on just what the conditions were or are in the Mashpee estuaries, and it was a pretty sobering assessment. And I think periodically, you know, this kind of presentation is important. Now, I'm not sure we're going to get that quality of information, but I think any presentation regarding water quality and water quality conditions, I think is important. And I think the residents need to know from time to time just how difficult things are. Are they getting better? Are they getting worse? If they're getting worse, why? Those kinds of, that kind of information just needs to get out there.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a water quality night.
Yeah. I'm going to try to move things quickly here. So about upcoming agenda review, does anybody have anything on that?
I don't. I'm fine.
We're really busy the next couple meetings. At some point, I don't know where everyone else is. Could we get an update on 6A, just where we are with that? I just feel like that's gotten a little long in the tooth as far as that meeting we had in the fire station and what's happened since.
That's a lot.
So, just so that I'm clear, the town meeting will be at the new
Intermediate school.
intermediate school.
Ooh. Do we know how many seats that actually has?
Yeah, it's, oh my God, you had to ask me. I know, it's like 800 or 900. It's big.
Yeah. Yeah.
The student body.
Ever been in the Barnstable Auditorium? How it scales up? It's similar.
No, I've been in there. It just didn't seem that big. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't?
You know what's different? You know what's different about it, though?
Our town meeting's gonna look really tiny.
Like, you know, on Mattakese, you're up on the stage looking down. Not so. With this, you're kind of at eye level with people on the platform.
Except for those first few rows.
Yeah, I mean, they can get to you easier.
Yeah. As we found out.
There you go. We got it.
So, all right, so we're good on this?
Yep.
And I see we have a placeholder for an update on the 10th, the migrant issue. If there is anything to update, we'll monitor this, and if there's nothing, we'll take it off. If there is something that's a new development or more information that's significant, then we'll keep it. So, all right, we go to individual items. Anybody have anything?
In the sake of time, no.
Okay.
Ditto.
Okay, so we got 4 no's on that one. A consent agenda, Division of Natural Resources request for approval of 4 shellfish regs. Pink Ribbon Pickleball Group wants a waiver of the fees and liability insurance. Discover Channel / Expedition Unknown request to use Parker's River Beach or Thatcher. Where's Thatcher Park Beach for filming? What beach is that? I couldn't figure that one out.
Yeah.
Anybody know?
Beats me.
I do not.
Thatcher
Is that
Park
over?
Beach.
Is that over near Wharf Lane?
I don't know.
That would be the right location.
That
Yeah.
to me would seem to be, I can't think of any
They
other
don't let
public.
people like me over there, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Thatcher Park. When I saw that, I'm going, I thought I knew all the beaches in town.
Yeah.
And a vote on the new finance director employment agreement between the town and Jennifer Mullen.
Congratulations, that's great.
I move the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes by a 4-0, 1 member absent vote. And Bob, any updates?
Well, I'll tell you something. Despite all of the things we're totally busy with, I worked very hard on this, and I just want to show you, I know we have town meeting coming up. This town meeting warrant, in terms of working with all of the different departments, I had initially intended on handing out the draft tonight so that you could take it home with you. And right now, I have 19 articles, but there's 2 articles that I'm waiting for some more technical information on. So I think we're going to have 21 articles total. So what I'd like to do, just to let you know, I've got the full thing completely written, all of the explanations ready for the board to review in an earnest fashion. I'm just going to finish up those 2 articles, and then by the end of the week, I'm going to get this in your hands so you'll have it. in, like, way before, you need to start looking at it for the 10th, but it'll be great. But I just want you to know, everyone's been helping out, so we've done a lot of work already. Got to jump on this town meeting warrant, and
How many petitioned articles, Bob?
none,
None?
no petitions.
Okay.
We have, the key highlights, I think, of the meeting really are, in addition to changing the name of the Board of Selectmen to Select Board, which that was in our file from before, there's an updated wetlands bylaw that carries in it a lot of the new federal flood regulations. So that's an important thing, and I know that Kelly Grant had been working on that. So to see Brittany and her team being able to move that forward, the wetlands bylaw is big. There is also the accessory dwelling unit bylaw, and so that is on as well. And then there's an additional,
Don't they have a meeting coming up on that soon?
yes,
They had one also the other day,
Did
which
they?
I watched. Yeah, they had
Public hearing?
they had a public hearing, and then they voted on it, and they had a unanimous vote on the
move
article.
forward.
Huh?
To move forward.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was not expecting a unanimous
Board
vote.
voted unanimously to recommend it?
Right, so the ADU proposal that we're gonna look at and discuss in the warrant will have been a unanimous vote by
Are
the
there
planning
any
board.
other public hearings, or is that it?
Public hearings they had, I don't think there are any more public hearings, I think they're
That was the
done.
last one?
That's my understanding, yeah, and they got some interesting comments, but by and large, they made some tweaks to the proposal, but they got it to a point where
Where do they
everybody,
stand on, finally, on that controversial part with the minimum lot square footage? Did they go with 10 or 15,000, do you know?
I
That was
don't.
back, they were back and forth on that.
Yeah, I don't recall. I was doing other work while I was watching the hearing and the meeting, and I paid close attention at the end when it came time to voting. And I was surprised, actually, pleasantly surprised, which is good.
Okay, good. You all set?
Set.
We have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
You don't have anything else, do you, Bob?
no, that was it.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. And we're adjourned.